society today, children are showing an increasing inclination toward violence to the point that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have identified violence as an epidemic. In 1993, a frightening number of teens and preteens around the country were involved in aggressively violent crimes. According to the FBI in 1991, 2,200 young people under the age of 18 were murdered. That was an average of 6 children every day. The FBI estimates that nearly 1 million young people between the ages of 12 and 19 are assaulted, raped, or robbed by their peers every year. And a recent Newsweek article described teens as a new dangerous breed. Statistics and news stories confirm that our state and our county are in no way immune to this alarming situation. Here in South Carolina, the Greenville News reports that a juvenile arrest for murder have increased 300% in the last 3 years. In South Carolina, stories of local violence appear in news articles and reports almost every day. In a 1990 Associated Press story, the Greenville News reported that a 9-year-old boy tried to poison his 5th grade teacher by placing rat poison in her tea. The boy told authorities he got that idea from the movie Heathers, which is an R-rated comedy depicting teenage murder. Here in Greenville, 10 youths aged 16 to 18 were arrested for a gunfight at Haywood Mall this summer. And since school started this year, in 1993, the Greenville News has reported numerous incidents of weapons found in area high schools and middle schools, which include guns, knives, and pepper gas. These stories sadden us, they shock us, and we wonder why so many awful things are taking place. What can we do? We know one thing that's aggravating the problem. Never before has such explicit and graphic media been available to so many people, including children. In our society today, the themes of violence, sexual exploitation, drug and alcohol use, rape, murder, suicide, and Satanism are becoming more prevalent. Music, movies, television, and print play significant roles in the desensitizing of our children. A recent survey found that the media ranks 3rd behind parents and peers in determining children's values and attitudes. Rock music is particularly important for our focus because it is aggressively targeted to teens and preteens during the period in their lives when their values are being formed and peer pressure is intense. Now, all rock music is not bad. There are groups whose lyrics contain pro-social messages, but heavy metal and rap groups have been especially criticized for graphic lyrics in their music. Lyrics that would be illegal for children to purchase if printed and sold in an adult bookstore are set to music and legally sold to eager young customers. Most of these lyrics are not printed, even in the record covers, because of this reason. Concern for censorship is valid, but as Newsweek editorialized, so is the concern for a 10-year-old walking down the street singing a popular song about damaging a woman's vagina. This song is found on 2 Live Crew's record, As Nasty as They Want to Be. Heavy metal is a type of rock music that often explores subjects such as rape, death, murder, suicide, racism, devil worship, sadism, and violence, most often directed at women. The names of some of these groups imply their fascination with violence and evil, and most of these groups are not peripheral groups, they're the popular ones. The groups are Venom, Suicidal Tendencies, Slayer, Megadeth, Poison, Morbid Angel, Gin and Torturers, Metallica, and Anthrax. In the face of a teen epidemic of suicide, Ozzy Osbourne claims he does not promote suicide, yet he appears in this photo in Hit Parader magazine. In the last few years, numerous suicides have been linked to this song by law enforcement officials and news reporters. Here, James Hetfield of Metallica appears to hang himself. The winner of 4 MTV Awards for 1993, and that's music television if you're not familiar with it, including Video of the Year, is a song or video entitled Jeremy by the popular group Pearl Jam. This song features a disturbed preteen who commits suicide in front of his class. You see the blood sprayed over the other students. Of course, a normal, healthy teen will not commit suicide because of one song. However, it is becoming apparent that glamorizing suicide can influence children who are depressed or who are predisposed to suicide. In the last 5 years, our country and our own area have seen increasing reports of devil worship, detailing crimes from cemetery desecrations to infant molestations. As recently as August of 1992, 2 Anderson youths were arrested for desecration of human remains. Authorities on the scene said they found 77 books dealing with satanic activity, serial killings, and torture killings, and found heavy metal cassettes. Here are some album covers that graphically portray satanic themes: Merciful Fate, AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Venom, and Celtic Frost. Whether or not these bands are actively involved in Satanism, they are promoting a fascination among teens who, according to law enforcement officials, are the largest emerging group responsible for proven occult-related crimes. The band Slayer, known for its dedicated satanic lyrics, sings in a song entitled "Kill Again." I quote, "Kill the preacher's only son, watch the infant die, bodily dismemberment, drink the purest blood." According to Esquire magazine, each of 5 panel members on a Phil Donahue show entitled Kids Who Kill named Slayer as their favorite band. The Venom album cover, Nightmare, depicts a demon raping a young girl. And King Diamond is probably the most blatant of devil worshippers. He claims in interviews that he is a Satanist. Another disturbing and prominent theme in heavy metal music is its emphasis on violence. Numbers of songs contain lyrics that describe killing someone over verbal disagreements. One example of this is found in the lyrics of the popular heavy metal group Primus, who sing in their song, "My Name is Mud," and this is a new song that's out. Quote, "We had our words, a common spat, so I kissed him upside the cranium with an aluminum baseball bat." This emphasis on violence is certainly not limited to heavy metal music. Indeed, violence is the focus of a whole development in rap music, videos, and cover art. Dr. Dre is considered by most to be the chief architect of gangster rap, which is rap music that deals with guns, gangs, sexual subjugation of women, drugs, and killings, including cop killings. And this was the subject last night of a news show on NBC. If you watched NBC Now, they talked about this last night on TV. Some rap groups have been singled out for the violent lyrics in their songs include Ice-T, Ice Cube, the Ghetto Boys, Tupac Shakur, NWA, Onyx, and Naughty by Nature. Dr. Dre spent 8 months this year under house arrest for assault. His former group, NWA, is known for their anti-police lyrics such as, and I quote, "Fuck the police," end quote. Dr. Dre's protege, Snoop Doggy Dogg, turned himself in for murder just hours after he appeared as an award presenter on the MTV Awards this fall. He was driving the car from which his bodyguard shot a man in the back. His first rap number was with Dr. Dre in the song 187, which means murder, on an undercover cop. In their current video, the group Naughty by Nature rages over ghetto life and challenges opponents with guns and machetes. One of the most disturbing aspects of violence in entertainment is the fact that whether it's in music, teen slasher films, or television, women are most often portrayed as victims of violence, and sexual violence is presented as fun. In fact, violence against women is now accepted as a normal theme in the entertainment industry. The band Motley Crue uses the theme of sexual violence at least once in every one of their albums. From the album Shout at the Devil, they sing the song Too Young to Fall in Love, and I quote these lyrics. "Not a woman, but a whore. I can taste the hate. Well, now I'm killing you. Watch your face turning blue." A newly released album is Vagina Diner, which is self-explanatory. Rappers also routinely write lyrics that feature degradation of or violence against women. The controversial Ice-T appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show to defend his lyrics. He defended this song, Iceberg, by saying that women should find it funny. Some of the lyrics follow, and I quote, Evil E was out cooling with a freak one night. Fucked the bitch with a flashlight. Pulled it out, left the batteries in, so he could get a charge when he begins. Used his dick, the shit was tight. Bitch's titties started blinking like taillights. Rolled her over to change the connection. Bitch's ugly face cold spoiled his erection. End quote. That was what was supposed to be funny. The cover of Guns N' Roses' album, Appetite for Destruction, depicts a woman who has been raped. This album went multi-platinum, representing over 9 million copies sold. Guns N' Roses' attitude towards women is also apparent in its lyrics, and I quote, "Panties round your knees with your ass in debris, doing that grind with a push and squeeze, tied up, tied down, up against the wall, be my Rubbermaid baby and we can do it all," end quote. One of Guns N' Roses' recent efforts, Gunner Lies, reached number 2 on the Billboard pop charts. This group is a favorite of 6th to 12th graders. The album included a song called "I Used to Love Her, But I Had to Kill Her." Notice the headline, "She broke my heart, so I ripped hers out." Not only are these forms of entertainment available to young children and teens, but the industry is actively targeting them to an adolescent and pre-adolescent audience in a variety of ways that include album covers, posters, t-shirts, and teen fad magazines. This advertisement from a teen magazine reads, "Okay, boys and girls, it's time to take your poison," and features a warning that reads, "Uncensored and unanimously disapproved of by parents everywhere." Teen fad magazines like these conduct interviews with bands and run photos that rival the worst of Playboy. The magazines are a source of much of our own material, and they are available to children in grocery stores, drugstores, discount stores, and bookstores everywhere. It is interesting to note that Playboy will not even print some of what is available to teens through albums, posters, and these teen fan magazines. This is the band Dokken, pictured with their fans in a teen fan magazine. This Judas Priest promotional photo was printed in Hit Parader and was captured, "The boys get their kicks on the road." If violence and sex are at epidemic proportions among young people, so are drug and alcohol use. In a fall 1992 survey done by the Greenville County School System, students in 7th to 12th grades reported increased use of all forms of tobacco and drugs, and 49% of those students acknowledged using alcohol. According to the Greenville News, juvenile arrests, drug arrests, have soared by as much as 800% in the last 5 years. Even with these kinds of statistics, the entertainment media increasingly promotes and glamorizes drug and alcohol use, especially marijuana, according to a November issue of Newsweek magazine. Metallica sends out press photos with the word "Alcoholica" fashioned after their logo. Motley Crue appears in an issue of Kerrang, which is a teen fan magazine, pretending to snort cocaine. Jackal advertises their need for hard liquor before their concerts in Rip magazine.
The American Academy of Pediatrics policy statement on music videos states, "Music videos may present a new art form, but we believe that it is one that contains an excess of sexism, violence, substance abuse, suicide, and sexual behavior." MTV airs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the average teen views 2 hours of these videos a day. 1/4 of our nationwide viewing audience is under the age of 15. What do teens see on MTV? One of Madonna's first videos, Like a Prayer, showed her kissing a priest and developing stigmata. Although this was controversial at the time, it is tame compared to her recent releases. In 1992, video Erotica shows her using whips and chains, kissing women, and performing oral sex on a doll. Janet Jackson's new video, If, shows her reaching through a man's leg to grab the front of his pants. MTV sponsored a Beauty on the Beach contest this summer in which male and female contestants stripped down to the bare minimum. MTV is also responsible for the now infamous cartoon Beavis and Butthead. Until recently, this cartoon was shown nightly at 7 and 11 p.m. However, when the show was blamed for a fire which killed a 2-year-old in October, producers agreed to move the airing times to 10:30 and 11. Beavis and Butthead are animated cartoon characters whose main activities is sitting on a couch, channel surfing, and practicing antisocial behavior. They rate everything they see and do according to two categories: what sucks and what is cool. Their conversations consist of insults and discussions of defecating, masturbating, body parts, flatulence, and women. According to Rolling Stone magazine's Beavis and Butthead make some anal references every 16 words. Parents may be interested to know that the main sponsors of MTV are Levi's, Pepsi's, Taco Bell, AT&T, Kmart, and athletic shoe companies. It is also interesting to note that many local businesses also support it, such as automobile dealerships. Television has been the focus of national and international debate because the average child now spends more time watching television than any other activity except sleeping, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. A.C. Nielsen Company also states that a typical 2 to 5-year-old watches 27 hours of TV every week. The American Psychiatric Association now estimates that a typical child will view 8,000 murders and 10,000 acts of violence on TV before he or she finishes elementary school. Children also view 14,000 sexual references and innuendos on TV a year, while only 150 of the 14,000 deal with sexual responsibility, abstinence, or contraception. These statistics are alarming because according to the National Association for the Education of Young Children, next to the family, television and other media may be the most important source of information for children, rivaling school as a principal factor influencing their development. Although TV networks agreed in June to air violence warning, such as parental discretion is advised, to help parents and concerned adults monitor children's television choices, few warnings have been aired. The problem with TV violence is that it is glamorized and antiseptic. Instead of focusing on the effect of violence and its solution, as in a dead body which represents a mystery to be solved, viewers' attention is focused on the actual violent event itself as a source of entertainment. TV violence rarely shows realistic consequences, pain, repercussions, recuperation, family trauma, or grief. Instead, horrible acts of violence are over and done with in a matter of minutes. The problem of TV programming is not limited to inappropriate shows. Children's television is 4 times as violent as adult programming, according to the study on television, A Violence Profile. Slasher films have become the object of a national outcry, although they continue to be produced regularly. Films such as Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street use this typical technique, a sexually suggestive scene which is meant to create arousal, immediately followed by a scene of torture, rape, and or mutilation of a woman. This lethal combination suggests that the ultimate satisfaction of sexual desire is enhanced by violence. 11 to 15-year-olds are the primary consumers of these films. A study done by the University of Wisconsin Sexual Violence in the Mass Media found that after only 2 showings of a slasher film, 18-year-old college males changed their opinion about what constituted rape. After the viewings, the students felt that a woman had not been raped unless she had been tortured or mutilated. The study reported also marked desensitization among the students. These scenes are from the newest Jason movie, Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, premiering this fall. Here, the coroner is eating Jason's heart. He dies and becomes possessed. These women are attacked by Jason. The series of movies entitled Faces of Death, watched by serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer before his second murder, contains repeated depictions of graphic killings. Faces of Death was shown at the Camelot Theaters last fall for special weekend showings at midnight. Those who stayed through the whole showing were given T-shirts advertising this film. In I Spit on Your Grave, these are several scenes of gang rape. The rape victims then retaliate by castrating one of her rapists. Neither of the above films carry consumer information or warning labels. Slasher films are more available to teens than ever before in the advent of VCR. Over 50 million homes have VCRs. 85% of 15-year-olds have reported renting R-rated movies. At many video rental stores, children can rent movies regardless of their ratings. Pick-a-Flick and Blockbuster do have forms that are available that parents may sign to restrict However, many videos are created exclusively for rental and bypass the MPAA rating system altogether. Many states restrict the availability of these films to minors, but South Carolina is not one of them. The world of children's toys has begun to reflect some of these same violent elements. We are all familiar with the mask and gloves featuring the long blades that extend from the fingers of Jason. Children may also buy X-Men and their violent trading cards, Ninja Warriors, and Beetlejuice items. The arrival of video games has altered childhood for this generation. Possibly these games are even more responsible for aggression in children than is TV because children participate in the video game violence. Some of the most violent games include Mutant League Football, which came out in July 1993 and advertises a severed arm, leg, and head. And Mortal Kombat, in which a player can rip off an opponent's head with the spinal cord dangling, or rip out an opponent's heart while it is still beating. These games are marketed on television stations such as MTV and in game and comic books to 8 and 13-year-old boys as a way to become powerful and gain respect of their peers. Do you know what your teens are reading? He or she probably is reading best-selling horror books for 8 to 15-year-olds. They are published by almost every publishing house and include authors such as R.L. Stine, Caroline B. Cooney, B.C. Andrews, and Christopher Pike. Described as Stephen King for kids, these books include some horror and plots that involve teenagers and their friends. In R.L. Stine's book entitled Babysitter, I quote, "His expression was as blank as death, and with a quick, simple motion, he grabbed the baby's head with one hand, twisted it, and pulled it off." In Christopher Pike's book, Monsters, I quote, "Mary pointed her shotgun at Kathy's face and pulled the trigger. The blast caught Kathy in the forehead and took off the top of her skull, plastering a good portion of her brains over the railing of the nearby staircase," end quote. In another Christopher Pike book, Die Softly, I quote, "She just knelt in front of me, kind of like a sacrifice," Alexis said, describing how she killed her ex-best friend Lisa. "I brought the bat down on her head quickly. The wood cracked, so did her skull. The blood gushed over her blonde hair. It was much darker than I thought it would be," end quote. According to Time magazine, these books took the 3 of the top 4 spots of the Publishers Weekly poll of the children's bestsellers list in 1992. Today's children and teenagers are growing up in a world very different from the one in which their parents grew up. Sex and violence seem to be such a staple ingredient in music, movies, TV, toys, books, and magazines. It is no wonder that this lessening of moral standards is corresponding with increasingly destructive behavior on the part of young people who are the most devoted consumers of these materials. What child-oriented and mental health professionals are worried about, and what we are worried about, is the cumulative effects of the consistent and pervasive message that violence is an acceptable form of behavior for resolving conflict and expressing frustration, and that brutality, degradation, and humiliation of living beings is a normal, valid form of entertainment. While one book or song will not desensitize our children, a steady diet of violent TV, books, music, and games will desensitize our children, as it desensitizes us during their developmental years. What do? We cannot put a childproof cap on the world, but we can strive to achieve positive change in an environment that is contributing to the problems that our children face. Many groups, such as these listed here, are issuing statements that support and encourage parental monitoring responsibilities while recognizing that parents cannot do it all. Take heart, parents, and control. The same study that reported the entertainment media as third greatest influencing factor on a child's values reported parents as number 1. You are not powerless. The same survey of students conducted by Who's Who mentioned earlier reported that 75% of students still have the most confidence in their parents. That means that parents have the opportunity to make that trust in a positive and decisive manner. That also means that parents must act. Lou Armistead, spokesman for the National Association for Secondary School Principals, says that parents must start taking responsibility for their children. Parents must make this a priority. And due to the essence of time, we have a sheet of suggestions of things that you can do, and they are on your tables. And so we appreciate if you take some and take it with you and look at it.
Thank you.
very much for letting us come.
As a parent, grandparent, I'm concerned and I'm glad that you are. What you have brought to membership today is an eye-opener. We've heard about it, we've read about it, but I can also say I didn't see anything like this. That's just because of it. I'd like to give you a token of my appreciation for being here. And we hope that your project will continue to grow and grow, and if we can help in any way, you know the call. And thank you for coming. On a much lighter note, and that was pretty serious, we didn't say that we were going to have meetings that were going to be just the police department and the fire department. We said we were going to have programs that Mike Smith and his committee have a varied program throughout the year, and this is just an example of what we think is the way for the future as far as our media is concerned. You don't want to miss next week. We have a real treat in store. It's our annual Christmas meeting. Dick Mag is in charge of the program. We have the privilege of having the Taylor Elementary School Choir, about 35, 40 young kids. They've been invited all over the East Coast to Washington, D.C. David Pollock, the conductor of our Greenville Symphony, had them on his most recent program. So you can understand that this is a pretty neat young group of young adults that will be here to grace our meeting and to sing for us and be prepared for a real treat. If you do plan to bring guests, please let us know. Call Ed Reed, call myself, our secretary, let us know that you're bringing a guest, because we do expect and anticipate a rather overflow crowd. We thank the guests for being here. We look forward to having you join us again. We hope you will consider joining our organization. We are open for membership. We're not closed, and as you can see, we have males and females. And we found out from the last meeting we had when Junior League was here, at age 40, you have to exit from Junior League. We're putting out the message that any 40-year-old females is looking for opportunity we want. No further business. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
It's fun. You get to do different things.
You get messages.
It makes me feel good.
It's such a positive method of working with students. They can pull from the resources of their souls almost.
The earlier we start, the better it's going to be. And by pulling the arts into it, we're going to have visual displays for the anti-drug program.
The Murals Reflecting Prevention Project uses the universal language of the arts to involve students in an exciting learning experience focused on the prevention of alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use. With guidance from this film and the accompanying materials, educators and community leaders across the country are helping students learn to say no to drug use as they work together to create Murals Reflecting Prevention.
Before we begin, we like to think about the choices we make. How do we make these choices? What kinds of things influence us and how we do what we do? What kinds of
Preparation involves developing and presenting a drug prevention lesson, selecting a theme and working with the students to apply the theme to the mural.
I think it would be your peers too, because it would be called peer pressure. Like, they try to talk you into something that you really don't want to do.
Every day, young people are exposed to a lot of risk factors. But let's think about some ways that we can work to prevent young people from using drugs.
Like for me, I use art to get away from certain things.
So you're building some good life skills right now that you can work with.
It is important to focus on positive prevention messages, messages that give students ideas and alternatives to help them resist drug use.
Positive value judgment and about what you think is right and wrong. Okay. Melissa.
Well, I feel that the future is more important than one moment. I mean, I have the rest of my life to be happy. I don't need drugs to make me happy for 1 second. It's not worth it to me to risk my life.
Okay, who can tell me what a mural is? Yeah.
It's a picture showing an idea, a meaning which many people work together making it.
Excellent, excellent. Can anybody think of a theme we can use for our mural today about alcohol, tobacco, and other drug prevention? Yes.
You could like put people doing healthy things, not smoking or something, like playing baseball or football or running.
What are some of the healthy behaviors that you learned in your assembly recently?
Healthy habits and activities. Exercise and keep in shape. Reading, playing sports, reading music, and dancing.
Okay, now let's discuss the themes that we're going to use and how they relate to substance abuse and preventative measures. Role models, developing positive bonds, and the last theme is healthy alternatives to drug use.
How do you visualize the mural?
We could have like people playing sports and riding bikes and exercising instead of doing drugs and drinking.
Very good. Mikey, what do you think?
We could make it colorful, like use a lot of bright colors so everybody can see it and it'll be attractive to people.
Very good.
I think we could use some pictures and words.
Good, good. How about you, Terry?
We can make the words in big bubble letters so everybody can see it perfectly.
All right. We've been working with creative problem-solving techniques to come up with some good ideas for each of the murals. You're going to be working 4 foot by 8 foot. So you maybe want to repeat an item or a color. You want to make sure that you have a balance of all parts. You then will have a harmonious and unified composition.
Now the fun begins.
I had a good idea for this song. We're going to do this.
What's this supposed to be? A bike. Music and biking. We're going to do and a football.
A wide variety of materials and techniques can be used to create permanent or portable murals.
No supplies out of the ordinary were used, so it was really easy. Basically, we used tempera paints, a little bit of acrylic, and some papers that we had in the classroom.
We tried to focus on one big focal point that when you look at it, it's going to catch your eye.
We used many different colors because if you use drugs and alcohol, well, you're not going to get many colors. Over here, we're going to have a role model holding up an umbrella over a person so that you can see that people, when it starts to rain or when it looks sad, they can look up to their role model.
Anybody could work with this project. Simple projects could be done at each of the students' desks and then collaged together at the end. So a classroom teacher could do it in a limited environment.
The project promotes team teaching and collaboration. Teachers from all disciplines can work together, spreading the prevention message across the curriculum.
I think it's wonderful. It gives you an opportunity to not only just work with one another, but learn their teaching style, gain something from them, and be able to share. I teach first grade, and I'm not an art teacher. It's wonderful to be able to bring the love of art into the first grade class.
This project can be used with students from all ages. I think a non-art teacher, particularly social studies teacher, a science teacher, health teachers, could use it as a follow-up as part of training in their classroom on drug prevention.
By having the students work together in small groups, cooperation comes in.
Oh, it's a lot of fun working with others. I mean, you can get a lot more done.
Because everyone has different ideas, and we had to work together to put all our ideas together, so we worked as a team.
I see many benefits for students working in a collaborative method. They're pooling their resources and using talents and skills from each student.
Definitely. You have to give up some of your ideas for somebody else's ideas and put them together.
By cooperating with each other, they're going to build on each other's ideas.
It's fun because if you get everybody doing it together, it really starts to blend in and look nice, so everybody's happy about what they draw and did. And plus it gives you a good feeling.
If you work together, you can get a lot accomplished, especially getting this message out.
The involvement of parents in all aspects of the project is encouraged.
I just think it's so important for parents to participate with the schools, to encourage their children to do more positive things and to stay away from drugs. Well, Angela has just become a new person since she's been involved in the arts. It's been a wonderful means of self-expression. She's developed confidence. I'm here today because of her. She insisted that I come and get involved.
I think it's nice when people work together and try to make something up, like something like this.
You get to see the final product, turns out more than you could expect, because in the beginning it's just a little sketch on a piece of paper.
There are many opportunities for parents, family, friends, and others to participate in the celebration of the completed murals.
We did these murals today to tell people about not to use drugs.
Our mural is trying to show that you can help somebody else,
The theme is that when a person can look towards a role model, they can see places that they can head in the future, and that they can realize that if they take drugs, they won't be able to achieve what their role model has achieved.
Public display of murals and community involvement increases the effectiveness of the prevention message. And it's great fun for the students as they take pride in sharing their work.
I think you should put it like at a museum, so where everybody comes to see it, so you could send the messages out.
Somewhere where kids could see it and be encouraged by it.
On our walls around the school, so the whole school would get the message and they could tell other people about it.
Somewhere, where a lot of people are going to see it, especially people who need the encouragement.
You can do it anywhere. You can do it on the side of a wall.
Brainstorming.
You could make one big, giant mural, and if you want to campaign on it, you just tell the whole community to come and just draw your own picture.
My students really enjoyed working on the murals.
As a principal, it's a wonderful experience for our children and teachers to work together on a topic of interest that is very valuable for our kids and for society in general.
Because art is like a visual that you can rely on.
It gives you a picture in your mind.
It makes everything become more realistic. It makes it very visually there. It's something that then the school can see for years to come.
You just need creativity, and everybody has creativity.
It's a natural way to express yourself.
California, where nature was once treasured, it is now trashed. Sacred sites, now scarred. It is a story repeated around the nation, and it's making folks very angry.
When graffiti begins and it feeds on itself, it looks like a city out of control.
They're damaging our city. Tulsa's been the most beautiful city, and we're proud of that. We're not proud of this.
One irate Los Angeles resident tried to fight fire with fire by scrolling his own plea to Mayor Richard Riordan. We're fed up with graffiti. Please help us.
Graffiti not only defaces a wall, it can also destroy an entire neighborhood, marking a community as an easy target for more violent crime. Studies show that what you see in a neglected neighborhood may be what you get. That if it looks unsafe, it will become so. People who live here come to a simple conclusion. If the building is vulnerable, so am I.
The syndrome is called broken windows.
When you see a house or an office building that has all its glass intact, it tends to stay intact. But if one window is broken and the window is not immediately repaired, pretty soon all of the other windows will be broken because people will think no one cares.
It's the opening wedge for a more serious decay in the quality of life, which will then bring street gangs and drug dealers and prostitutes to that neighborhood.
James Q. Wilson, a social scientist at UCLA, came up with the broken windows theory.
When people see graffiti unattended, they really believe that the quality of their life has been threatened in a very personal way, and they begin to wonder whether the good guys or the bad guys control the streets.
Terms like quality of life and public order have little meaning for the young people with the spray cans.
I used to wake up in the morning during junior high, grab a marker, a couple bucks, the bus pass, and vandalize everything I saw. I didn't care.
Here in California and in other parts of the country, they're called taggers because they leave their signature or their tag wherever they can. Just for example, NPS is the tag for a crew called Notorious. And the more tags they leave, the more famous they become at home.
Frank DiPaolo is a Los Angeles police officer in charge of a graffiti abatement program. His investigations have uncovered menacing messages on the walls. Officer DiPaolo helped us decipher the code, which explains how graffiti vandals who travel in crews cross paths with their more dangerous counterparts in gangs.
When do you think this was put up? Any ideas?
They usually tag in the evening.
In the evening?
Yeah, this looks fairly recent compared to some of the other graffiti here.
And this is just sprayed on?
This is sprayed. Yeah, they also use markers as well.
This is all taggers?
This whole wall is tagger. You have here probably about 8 or 9 taggers. You've also got a gang that painted over tagger graffiti. Now, quite often what they'll do is they'll put the gang logo up and they'll put 187, which is the California Penal Code for murder, which means that a member of the gang is going to kill whoever he crossed out. So that's the billboard for criminal activity indicating that there's going to be a murder of somebody from that gang versus a tagger or a gang member who they crossed out.
Who are these kids with the spray cans? Why do they do it? Listen to the answers we got from a tagging crew we invited to a Los Angeles park. You will likely be as stunned as we were by the brazen attitudes of Johnny, age 17, and Robert, who is 15.
Johnny, tell me what happens when you go out to do tagging.
When we go, we usually get beer and we get all drunk. Then we just like have fun. We just go writing on walls.
Robert, what about you? What's in it for you?
The fame, the adrenaline you get while you're doing it.
Tell me about the fame.
The fame among your peers, among the city.
Do kids in school come up to you and say they saw your name?
Yeah, daily.
Daily?
Daily.
And that makes you feel good?
Yeah.
It's really pretty pathetic, and it doesn't say very much for our society that these young people have to splash their name all over a freeway wall or a bus to get fame.
How many times do you think you've written your name?
More than I have fingers and toes. A lot, I don't know. That was a lot.
You think you should be responsible for that damage?
Responsible in what way? Responsible.
It costs money to clean it up.
Yeah, so don't clean it up.
They're really marking their territory similar to what a dog does when it urinates on a hydrant.
Has any of you ever been caught?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what happened?
With time, lots of times I've been caught.
You gone to jail?
Nope.
If a kid gets away 3 or 4 times with graffiti and he gets arrested and gets a slap on the wrist, well, why not go to the next step? Well, let's try stealing a car next. While we're tagging, maybe we'll break into the building and perpetuate some other crime. So absolutely. You know, very few people in society today hold these kids responsible until they go over the line and it's too late.
What's the scariest you've ever done?
Scariest stuff I've ever done? I don't know, hanging off the side of buildings and stuff, like on little bars about an inch thick, stories and stories up in the air.
You risked your life for this?
I've fallen off rooftops.
Did you get hurt?
Yeah, I just broke my arm.
Was it worth it?
Yeah.
Why?
It was still there on that rooftop to this day.
Your name is still on that rooftop?
Officer DiPaolo, one of the few adults who speaks the tagger's language, explained that their graduation to more serious crime underlies the broken windows syndrome.
What's the progression as you've seen it?
Taggers will go from a solo tagger to a tagging crew. Then they'll start acquiring guns in many cases to protect themselves against the other taggers and gang members. And then they go on to more violent acts because you've got a bunch of people, young people together who are out of control.
In this undercover video taken by Los Angeles Transit Police, cocky kids tag bus after bus in broad daylight during rush hour until they're caught.
Okay, move in. Go, go.
In less than a minute, vandals can do $10,000 worth of damage to a bus. The totals are staggering. $14 million a year spent in California alone for cleanup of public transportation. How to stop what some call an outrage and regain control of the streets?
You come out and you spray graffiti on my property or on public property, you're going to get papped.
One radical proposal to toughen existing law comes from California Assemblyman Mickey Conroy, an advocate of corporal punishment. He authored a bill calling for paddling juvenile graffiti offenders. The vandal's response was spray painted on Conroy's office. If his bill had become law, the offenders could have gotten up to 10 wallops, administered in court by their parents. Officer DePaulo of the LAPD takes a different approach. For 4 years, he's been confronting the guilty teens with tough talk, and he brings their parents in, too, to help understand. One of his most effective techniques is an in-your-face turnabout of the tagger's quest for fame.
Stand up. It's a nice shirt. Can I write on it? In fact, open your shirt up. I like a white background when I write. Now, what do you think of me if I write my crew, which is LAPD, and my name, which is Frank, on your shirt? What do you think of me?
I don't like it.
Okay, why?
Well, it's mine.
Well, wait a minute. You just said it's your shirt and I shouldn't tag, but you just told me you wrote on buildings and buses. Did you own the building? Did you own the bus? So what makes you think all these people who are sick and tired of graffiti want to see your name up all over buildings and buses?
17-year-old Jose, whose tag is EVAC, has incensed countless private business owners.
How about the guy's trucks that you tagged? How do you think the man feels? He's going to make deliveries in those trucks. He's making a living from those trucks. How do you think he feels with your tag name all over him?
You're going to go around with somebody's tag on it. If it's not mine, it's going to be somebody else's.
You're going to go back to that man's building that you tagged where he's trying to make a living, and you're going to eradicate all the graffiti on the building that you put up and on his truck. Good job, Acostas. Good job. See? Teamwork. We all work together. Instead of putting this crap up, you work together to take it down. Really
3 days later, with DePaulo supervising for 8 hours in heat over 100 degrees, Jose and a group of graffiti vandals paint out their own graffiti.
Block it out. This place got to be better when we leave than when we got here. Block it out.
It is a weekly ritual at multiple sites, which amounts to some 2,500 paint-outs a year.
And what else would you have to do on a Saturday afternoon, right? Beautiful day, huh?
Painting it out seems like a good idea. Punishment fits the crime. But isn't someone else just going to come along and tag it the next day?
You know, it's funny. When you paint out a tag with graffiti, it's like a slap in the face to him. And if you can outlast him on painting it out, it'll go away. It'll go someplace else.
Such victories are small but significant for Joe Conley, a graffiti gorilla in Los Angeles who's made it his mission to wipe out unwelcome words on the walls of his neighborhood. In the last 2 years, he has diminished much of the blight in his community and helped sustain the quality of life there.
The #1 deterrent for graffiti is get paint and encourage people to paint it out immediately. If everyone in the city of LA goes out just in front of their property and paints out just what's in front of their face, you know what? Graffiti would be gone in 5 minutes. Graffiti is just total frustration. Total frustration by people that are breaking the law, and they're gonna try to break you down. It's power, it's control. You need to turn that around immediately.
After cleaning up the buildings and with permission from the owners, Conley leaves a message in a manner the graffiti vandals might well understand. In other parts of the country, too, more and more good guys are out riding posse with paintbrushes. Albuquerque, New Mexico, where the mayor put 5,000 citizens on the street in 1 day to take back their property.
We have to show them that we're not going to put up with it, and if we have to keep coming back and painting it, that's what we'll do.
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Any of these kids that think we're going to let that high-level stuff stay are wrong. We're going to take it off right away.
Springfield, Missouri.
The community as a whole is not going to tolerate graffiti in and around their neighborhoods, wherever that neighborhood may be.
It is not easy to erase graffiti, but it's a lot simpler than solving or serving time for more serious crimes. Back in Los Angeles, Officer DePaulo is making some progress. He points out that while his program only turns around 1 out of 5 taggers, that's one less set of broken windows.
Which started as an attempt to revitalize neighborhoods and clean up the community, we really ended up in the business of saving souls.
This is not just a punishment. We're trying to get you to change your behavior, so you understand. When you leave this program, you say, hey, that's writing on walls nowhere.
Lynn.
Well, coming up next, a tough story to tell you. 7 months ago, we profiled Abel SIlva, a teenager turning his life around. Well, a few days ago, unfortunately, he was murdered, and his dreams of becoming a police officer were destroyed, and we will have that story next. As journalists, we very rarely get personally involved in a story, but our Pat Lalama befriended a young man she met while covering a tough gang prevention program.
Abel SIlva is the young man's name. He did turn his life around, but the gang would not let go of this person, and Pat joins us now with the update on his story, and it's a sad one. Pat.
They tell us all the time not to get personally involved. You cannot help but to have liked Abel SIlva. He was a wonderful young man with a future. He had made his amends, but his past caught up with him and cut short his promising future. Abel SIlva was stabbed to death on Topanga State Beach.
They are the young warriors of the mean streets of L.A., not yet hardened, but flirting with the gang lifestyle.
You get tough guy, you want to hang out with the homies, you want to dress like an idiot. Sooner or later, someone's going to dump you, man.
Officer Frank DePaulo's mission to turn these young men around. And here at the LAPD's Central Area PACE program, officers and hardcore criminals use tough love to reprogram a life of crime.
You'll be cleaning my cell, doing my line.
It is through this program that last March I met Abel SIlva, outfitted and tattooed in the usual gang fashion of his brethren. But chiseling through their tough exteriors, I soon realized, with the help of Abel, that there are personal stories of hurt.
My day was get drunk every day. He started fighting with my mom, so I just go out and with my friends.
His dad's drinking forced Abel to find acceptance in a gang. But DePaulo and other PACE officers saw potential for salvation in Abel and the rest of these young men, and it was in the program that Abel's life turned around. A Saturday trip to the city, not to joyride or terrorize, but to expend blood, sweat, and tears in a productive fashion, and it was working.
Right now, I just want to have a girlfriend, work, and do something for my life.
Then the bitter irony. Abel was murdered on Monday, stabbed to death by 6 men at Topanga State Beach. Abel's mother, Antonia, is stricken. He was the child, she says, she loved the most. He was kind and respectful, gave her the least problems. And for the officers who helped turn Abel around, they try to find some meaning in his death.
It just makes me want to go out there and do more to see if I can help someone else's son or someone else's daughter.
We held out our hand and Abel grabbed it. If we could do that with him, what could we do with other kids?
While Abel was still alive, he wanted his tattoos removed, and the police officers paid for that to be done. He became an Explorer Scout, and he'll be buried tomorrow in his uniform. He came along with us, the Dave Bush cameraman, and myself, to many stories and enjoyed watching the television news process, and at one time was interested in even becoming a cameraman. But really, he wanted to be a police officer. Those 2 men helped change him around to want to become a cop. You may wonder what exactly happened. Police don't know. But they tell us they don't think he was doing anything wrong. He was on the beach with friends. He was confronted by a group. No one is sure exactly what took place, but he ran from them, and they chased after him and stabbed him to death. And we are praying for him and hope the best for his family. Tomorrow he'll be buried. Anyone interested in having their children put into this PACE program to try to stop them from a potential life of crime, I think we have a telephone number that may be on the screen. Yes, right. Is it there? Okay, PACE program. And that's area code 213-485-6586. These people really want to help children who look like they're heading down the wrong path.
And Abel, it was working for him.
Oh, it absolutely was. When he would come to see us, he came down to the Rodney King trial with us. He covered some Michael Jackson stories with cameraman Dave Bush, and you could see that he was fascinated that someone had taken interest in him, especially those 2 police officers. And I have to tell you, we're not supposed to say this kind of thing, but I'm pretty shaken by this. He was a good kid, and you start to wonder, should I have called him more? Should I have invited him to promote more stories? I know the officers are saying the same thing, but really you can only do so much. And
but the bottom line, Pat, is that you 2 did have a positive impact on his life.
We hope so. We hope so.
Thank you.
He had fought to escape the deadly grip of gangs, but Abel Silva never lived to see his dream come true. Relatives and police honored Abel at his funeral today. On Monday, 6 men stabbed Abel to death at Topanga State Beach. Police had spent countless hours helping the 17-year-old turn his life
He was
around.
in a jail cell, and he was sporting gang tattoos. He's now being buried in an explorer uniform. From one of them, he became one of us.
He would have been a good testament to the community to say, here, I've made it. Here I am. I used to be a gang member, and now I'm a success.
The men who killed Abel are still at large.
Tragic story.
It was a life lost on the beaches of Malibu earlier this month. A former gang member killed by a group of attackers. But if you've grown numb to this kind of crime, you haven't heard the whole story this time. Wayne Garcia tells us about a life lost just when it was being found.
We first met Abel Silva 3 months ago. He was so determined to leave the 18th Street gang, he'd gone to a Beverly Hills dermatologist to have his gang tattoos removed. L.A. police officer and youth counselor Frank DiPolo was determined to help Abel start a new life. Although Abel had been involved in gang fights, stealing cars, Officer DiPolo felt he was worth saving.
We put out our hand to Abel, and he grabbed it. You could look at his eyes. You saw that the kid wanted another family. As we told him, if you want to be in a gang, that's fine. Why don't you join our gang? It's a positive gang, and we're really going to put our money where our mouth is and try to help you.
I used to saw my mom crying a lot of times. And now she's happy with me. She's proud of me, you know.
But Abel knew leaving his old life would be risky, and that's why he asked us not to show his entire face. But risks or not, Abel was making progress. He became an L.A. police explorer and even wanted to become an LAPD cop.
We go out with Abel and take him out in the police car. He always wanted to hold a police radio, and we taught him how to use it. He listened to the radio calls. I mean, he really showed an affinity for someday becoming a police officer, a genuine interest.
I'm happy doing this. You know, all people who stabbed me, to actually where I'm from, I can say, well, my from is LAPD. You got a problem with that? Nah. yeah, I like it.
But something happened to Abel that would steal his dream away. Just after midnight on October 4th, Abel was attacked here on this Malibu beach. He was jumped by several gang members. Abel ran across Pacific Coast Highway, tried to get away, but was stabbed to death. The killers have not been found. L.A. police officers don't usually attend the funerals of former gang members, but when services were held inside this Hollywood church for Abel Silva, 8 officers stood inside and wept. His mother asked if Abel could be buried in his blue explorer's uniform, and so he was. It is how he'll be remembered.
I think Abel was walking a fine line, and I don't delude myself to think that we had totally pulled Abel out of the abyss and into the world, into our world. But I think we had made a very, very profound impression, and I think with enough work on our part that eventually he would have come around it.
And that gives Frank DiPolo strength to try to help others. Even if Abel Silva couldn't ultimately reach his dream, perhaps because of his life, others can.
This fellow was driving very erratically. He was driving down a main street at 11 at night without his lights on. He looks intoxicated on a sobriety test. He was stumbling and was testing his problem for marijuana.
It's a 380. He had 6 live rounds.
We found one fellow who was driving around with his spray cleaner to his car.
We know that there are people out here driving under the influence of cocaine and marijuana, and we're saying that these types of drivers are just as dangerous, if not more so, than those who are under the influence of alcohol.
You been doing any drinking?
No, I don't drink at all.
You haven't been doing anything?
Everyone knows alcohol and driving don't mix.
Rigorous police enforcement and public awareness have made many potential drunk drivers think twice before getting behind the wheel. Meanwhile, another highway killer has gone virtually uncontrolled.
We know that there are people out here driving it under the influence of cocaine and marijuana, and we're saying that these types of drivers are just as dangerous, if not more so, than those who are under the influence of alcohol.
And there's proof the police may be right. A Tennessee study found that 40% of drivers injured in car crashes tested positive for illegal drugs. That's more than the percentage of injured drivers who'd been drinking alcohol. Another study in New York City showed that 40% of drivers killed at the wheel had illegal drugs in their system.
People who drive under the influence of cocaine actually believe that they're better drivers, and that's where we're seeing our dangerous accidents, where people are traveling at high rates of speeds and doing a lot of damage, a lot of injury.
Until now, police had been virtually powerless to get these deadly drivers off the road. That's because most field sobriety tests are aimed at detecting alcohol, not drugs. Even drug recognition experts can't always see the signs of cocaine use without a blood or urine test. And that usually means going to a hospital or other site for a laboratory test, then waiting up to 72 hours to get results. In most cases, police have no choice but to let a suspected drug user get back in their car and drive free.
There's a lot of drugs on the street, and we know that we're working constantly to do something about it, but people have a cavalier attitude about driving while under the influence of cocaine and marijuana.
Drug one to be.
But now there is a weapon against drivers on drugs. A new transportable urinalysis kit is making on-scene drug testing as easy as testing for alcohol. The Microline kit, developed by Drug Screening Systems Incorporated, can detect cocaine and marijuana in a small urine sample within minutes.
Are you willing to submit to a urine drug test now?
Memphis police took the Microline kit into the field for the first ever mobile drug testing program in the country. Using a van equipped with toilet facilities, testing area, and volunteer medical professionals, the Memphis drug unit patrolled the streets, arriving at accident scenes and stopping suspicious drivers.
We've always had the capability of testing people in hospitals, but it's always taken us 2 or 3 days and $150 or more for fees to test someone for drugs in a hospital. This enables us for about $3 a test, well actually $1.50 per individual test, $3 for both cocaine and marijuana, to test an individual in the field in a period of between 5 and 10 minutes and get the results back.
Not only is the Microline kit fast, it's also easy to use. 5 drops of urine are dripped into each window of the test plate. In just 3 to 20 minutes, the plate develops without any additional procedure. The presence of cocaine or marijuana shows up with a colored stripe in the designated window. Because the Microline system is so fast and easy, most of the legal requirements concerning evidence chain of custody don't apply.
As required under TCA 5510-406, I am hereby requesting you to submit.
It's a new program. It carries back to our implied consent law that we currently use mainly for alcohol.
The implied consent law says that any driver in Tennessee must submit to a drug or alcohol test if a law enforcement officer has reasonable ground to believe that such a person has been driving under the influence of an intoxicant or drug. Refusal to submit to the test will result in suspension of the operator's license by the court.
If you're not on drugs, you're going to be buying yourself a lot of trouble by refusing the test.
We still do exactly the same thing we do for DUIs. We read them their rights on the implied consent law, and they do have the ability, if they desire, to refuse to take the test. In that case, their driver's license could be suspended.
Can we read something to you? You test negative and everything, you'll be on your way.
If they're found to be positive and they've been driving under the influence and their ability is impaired, we will take them into custody. The charge will be DUI.
Your cocaine test right now is reading positive. Because of this, we're going to have to make a physical arrest on you. On a positive cocaine test would constitute driving under the influence of a drug. I already gave him a field sobriety test and got the implied consent.
Memphis police found that even more drivers than they imagined were using drugs and getting behind the wheel. This man passed a breathalyzer test, but The microline screening showed he had been smoking marijuana.
Blood alcohol content, he blew a .06. We didn't have this van and we weren't able to test him for marijuana. .06, he probably would have been let go.
We've had about 60% positive so far. Out of the total 51 or 52 we've tested, we've had about 30 who are positive for either cocaine or marijuana or a combination of the two.
We've seen people driving on drugs with children. We've seen people driving on drugs in all parts of the city, too. It's not, a lot of people think that we would just want to concentrate on one small part of the city. They have their image of what a cocaine user is like. And that's not true at all. We've been finding people in all 4 precincts of the city. And every race, different ages. So that's one of the things that I've always thought that people should understand. Drug abuse is not limited to one segment of the population. It's very widespread.
Memphis police sent every positive test sample to a lab for confirmation, and the microline test proved to be right every time.
This has been very accurate. We confirm all the tests with the University of Tennessee toxicology, and we've had 100% concordance with our tests, which means whenever this shows up positive, the confirmatory test, which is much more complicated, shows positive also. And that's a test they use for evidence in court.
We have breathalyzers in the field with DUI van operators who catch DUIs all the time in the field. Now we're saying that we have the same capability with the drug van to catch someone who's driving under the influence of cocaine or marijuana.
We think that anybody who's taking the risk of taking drugs and driving at the same time, I think, can use some help. So
the Memphis project combined enforcement with treatment, referring drivers who tested positive to programs where they could get help for drug addiction.
These people are getting help. We're referring everybody to treatment that gets apprehended, gets positive for drugs, and some of them are already making those appointments. And that's what we'd like. It's a therapeutic project.
This man's test showed he'd been using cocaine. In his car, police found 41 grams of the drug and a loaded weapon.
He's been trying to get help. He needs help for his usage. He said he was happy he was stopped because he needs the help and he hopes he can get some help.
Community response to the program was overwhelmingly supportive. Even drivers who went through the test but came up clean said they didn't mind the inconvenience if the program could save lives.
I think it's a good idea. I'm pretty impressed with it.
People have thanked us for doing this. And we had a fellow the other day that we pulled over, and his family came up, and we expected them to be upset with us. And they were grateful, and one of the reasons they were grateful is they have 2 hit and runs on their block in the last month. They've had a couple of kids die, and they were certain that those people were on drugs. And they were happy that this was finally at work. So it's a support of the community that's been a surprise and a nice one.
Because prevention is always the best defense, on-site drug testing is a powerful weapon against car fatalities.
I think it would deter a few folks. Some people are going to do it no matter what because they're in that mindset that they believe they're invincible, and some people just don't care anyway. But it would definitely make me think twice if I was to consider doing something I shouldn't be doing. We're hoping the future means that this type of project will continue, and we hope we'll see it more and more of it across the country.
I hope everybody gets the message and we don't catch anybody anymore because they're not doing it. That would be the best thing of all.
I'm Peter Jennings, and I want you to see some imaginative images about illegal drugs. There is actually encouraging news in the fight against illegal drug use. National surveys are reporting that some Americans, especially young people, are getting the message and are turning away from drugs. Drug use is no longer considered normal behavior. Increasingly, users are regarded as antisocial and truly stupid. One major force behind this anti-drug effort is the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. It is made up of volunteers from the entire communications industry, the people who create advertising, who produce it, who supply materials and talent for it, and the media. We've all joined as partners dedicated to the proposition that not one more person should start using illegal drugs. Partnership messages are designed to make you think or get mad or even cry, but they move you to do whatever it takes to prevent drug use in your home, your school, your workplace.
Hello, my name's Penny. I think people shouldn't do drugs. They can make you forget things, like which animals have stripes. And your body might get clumsier, so you can't jump rope as good. Drugs can get you in big trouble. You could go to principal's office or go to jail. Then you can't watch TV or eat pizza. Recess is good. Hamsters are good. Birthday parties are real good. Drugs are bad. I wouldn't do drugs.
I pledge allegiance to myself and who I want to be.
I want to be a teacher.
Because I can make my dreams come true if I believe in me.
I'm going to be the president.
I promise to stay in school and learn the things I need to know.
I want to be an actress.
To make the world a better place for kids like me to grow.
I promise to keep my dreams alive and be all I can be.
I know I can, and that's because I pledge to stay drug-free.
Love yourself. Stay drug-free.
When others ask you to do drugs, what do you say to them?
I ignore them. I'd rather stick anchovies in my ears. No way. I respect my body, man.
I don't want to look and feel like this.
Take a chill pill.
My teacher tells us to just say no. Policemen said the same thing. They don't have to walk home through here. 'Cause the dealers are scared of police. But they're not scared of me. And they don't take no for an answer.
To Kevin Scott and all the other kids who take the long way home, we hear you. Don't give up.
Doing drugs is like being on top of the world. Everyone says so. Everyone seems to be having one dandy old time. Hey, it's part of growing up. Or is it? Just think about this. Before you go and do something you've never done before, you just better know what you're jumping into.
Tito, como soy tu amigo, este te lo regalo.
No, yo no.
Hagamos una cosa. Si adivinas en qué mano está, te lo llevas. Si no, no. ¿Hecho?
No sé.
Pero ¿somos o no somos amigos? ¡Vamos!
Está bien.
Estás de suerte.
No, mejor no. Mira, tengo que irme.
Un amigo que te ofrece drogas no es tu amigo. No caigas en la trampa. No uses drogas.
Robert, guess what? What? Walter asked me to meet him in the Bandit building at 5:30. You're not going to the Bandit building. Why not? Because Walter do drugs. Walter's my friend. Walter is not your friend. Yes, he is. No, he's not. Yes, he is. No, he's not. Walter dissing you. If you go, I'm telling Mom. But you my brother. I don't care. Walter do drugs. And you ain't going to do it with him. marijuana's gonna mess up my concentration? I ain't gonna worry about that.
My friend Nancy's been doing a lot of drugs. I know it's catching up with her. I can see it coming. But what can I do? If I say anything, she'll think I'm not cool. And I don't want to lose a friend. I mean, it's her life. Right?
If you have a friend who's in trouble with drugs, don't just stand there. Do something.
Look at this. The marijuana can mess you up.
Right. We've been getting high for what, 15 years? Nothing's ever happened. Did I get into all the drugs and start mugging people? Nah, didn't do anything. In fact, I'd say I'm exactly the same as when I smoked my first joint.
Eddie, did you even look for a job today?
No, Ma.
Marijuana can make nothing happen to you, too.
This is David. Oh, hi. This is what David's done. David went to college. Sorry, Annapolis. David taught himself to play piano, the sax, even the bagpipes. Well, maybe not the bagpipes. David was NBA Rookie of the Year. He's also been to the Olympics twice. David even became a naval officer. David's sure done a lot. But you know one thing David's never done?
Drugs.
David doesn't do drugs. Maybe that's why he's done so much.
Hey, man. Want a taste of something make you feel good?
Leave me alone.
Try it out. You don't know what you're missing. A little crack won't hurt you.
It'll make me a crackhead.
Won't cost you nothing. This one's on me. Absolutely free.
I said no, man.
Good job, son. That's just what you do if that ever happens.
Okay, Dad.
Deal with your kids. Tell them the truth about drugs. It could be the most important role you ever play.
Like how you handled yourself.
Hi, Chris. It's Mom. Look, honey, I've got a lot of work to do, so I won't be home until late again. Just do the usual, you know, fix yourself a little something, anything you want. Oh, and I left some money for you on the counter. Use it for whatever you like. Now, Dad won't be home until Tuesday. He says hi. Oh, and somebody told me you quit soccer. Is anything wrong? Well, just leave me a note. Love you. Bye.
Listen to me. I want you to cross at the corner and look both ways because people today will run right over you.
Today, the streets are even more dangerous than you think.
You like flying? I got something that'll really make you fly.
So talk to your kids about drugs or somebody else will. For a free parent's guide to drug prevention, call 1-800-624-0100.
This is a drug problem. An order unfulfilled, a complaint unanswered, an opportunity missed. You see, drug users have almost double the absentee rate. That's the problem. Your problem. So pick up your phone and call for a free guide on how to set up a drug-free workplace. It's surprisingly simple. And it's one call that can help get more calls answered. Maybe your business is so good, you can afford a slowdown. because that's what can happen when you've got employees who use drugs. Fact is, drug users have almost doubled the absentee rate. So call for this free guide on how to set up a drug-free workplace. It's not hard to do, and it'll help keep things moving.
You're looking at the brain of a healthy adult, as seen through an amazing new computer-aided imaging technique. The bright colored areas indicate normal blood flow to the brain. Now you're looking through and into the brain of a chronic drug user. The dark areas indicate parts of the brain that are not receiving their normal supply of blood and are not fully functioning. Maybe you have to have holes in your head to use drugs.
My name is Jose Cerda, and what I'm going to tell you is real. On January 4th, 1987, a passenger train en route between Washington and New York collided with a freight train. In the trial that followed, the engineer admitted to having smoked marijuana and overlooking security measures. They say that marijuana doesn't hurt anyone. But this time, 16 people died. Among them, Laura Cordy, my wife.
Lies beget lies.
God, you sound like Mother.
Well, she happens to be right. Lying is a vicious circle, and there's no way out except to tell the truth.
It's not so easy this time, Maureen. If I tell you, it's just gonna make you mad.
1 out of every 5 people who try cocaine get hooked. But that's not your problem. Or is it?
And we're back looking at the 14th Street Bridge this morning. This is October the 14th. Good morning to you. Welcome back to News 4 Today. And this morning, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you.
This morning, President Clinton could be called one of the nation's top cops. Last night, President Clinton was made an honorary New York City detective by the National Association of Police Organizations. The group gathered to honor the nation's 12 top law enforcement officers. Mr. Clinton thanked them all for putting their lives on the line, and he also thanked officers for helping to pass the crime bill, which has already provided law enforcement grants to some 400 communities. Well, congratulations to President Clinton.
Yes.
Detective Clinton.
Detective. We're gonna
This is KLAS-TV, Channel 8. People you can count on to bring you closer to the people, the places, and the stories that matter to you. You're watching Channel 8's Eyewitness News at 5 with Tom Morton and Juana Hart.
On most days, you'll find Metro Police Officer Stephen Collins patrolling our streets. But this week, Collins was in Washington, D.C. for the first time in his life to receive the Top Cop Award. Brian Thompson has more from Washington about one of Las Vegas's finest.
Not bad for a first-time trip to Washington. Officer Stephen Collins singing the Star-Spangled Banner while standing behind the President of the United States.
I feel very honored because there's a whole bunch of officers in Las Vegas that could have received this award.
Collins may seem to be a bit young to be standing here on stage as one of the nation's top cops, but he got it for real work in the Weeks Plaza housing project.
The tenants were afraid to even come out and use the picnic areas or even let their kids play. So myself and other officers were very instrumental in cleaning that up and not stopping crime totally, but slowing it down a whole lot.
Most lawmen nationwide are looking to the crime bill the president just signed into law for relief.
I believe that.
So is Las Vegas's Collins.
We can always use more police officers, and the more police officers out there, the more crimes that can be stopped.
Make sure this crime bill works. If you think it's not working, you let me know.
A shake of the hands with the president seemed to cement the deal to do just that. White House honors are nice, but now it's back to the grim reality of some of the toughest streets in Las Vegas. And maybe, just maybe, the new crime law will make a difference. At the White House, Brian Thompson, Eyewitness News 8.
Collins is one of 12 officers in the country who received the Top Cop honor. The native Las Vegan has been on the force for 9 years.
WWL-TV, Channel 4, New Orleans. Hoda Kotb, Jim Henderson, and meteorologist Nancy Russo. This is Louisiana's news leader, Channel 4's Eyewitness News Night Watch.
Chief Pennington has a reason to be proud tonight. One of his new men from New Orleans was in Washington, where he was honored as one of the nation's top cops. Officer Lloyd Clark was shot 6 times when he responded to a call about a domestic dispute. Clark says his training helped him survive.
Any situation that you get in, you have to keep a straight head, keep your mind thinking at all times. Whatever decision you make, go with that decision at the time, because it may save your life.
The awards were given out by the National Association of Police Organizations, which also honored President Clinton.
From Michigan's News Channel, with exclusive live Doppler radar, this is News Channel 12 this morning.
And we'll talk live with one of the top cops in the country, and he is right from our own backyard. Be right back at 6:14. There is one police officer in our area who is being set apart today from all other police in the Great Lakes region. Flint Township Police Officer Tim Jones will tonight be one of a dozen officers from around the country to receive a Top Cop Award from the National Association of Police Organizations. Officer Jones joining us this morning from Flint's Bishop Airport, where he's now getting ready to board the plane headed to Washington, where he will receive the award tonight. Good morning, Tim, and congratulations on your award.
Thanks, Larry. Good morning to you.
Thank you. Good. Your department, of course, nominated you for the award, and I know it was based on your involvement with the DARE program and in crime prevention. How do you approach those programs?
You know, DARE specifically, we have been a targeted program in the elementary schools for a 17-week life skills program that helps them with peer pressure so they can resist the problems with drugs, and they have hands-on skills to be able to help them say no.
But Tim, I know the basics of the DARE program, but you approach it in a way that really gets to the kids on a one-on-one basis, and that's really also the way I understand you approach the crime prevention programs you have in Flint Township.
You know, it's called, I give it a personal touch. I let them know that I'm a human being, that even though I wear a uniform, I still have feelings, and that let them know that they're the most important person in the world and because of their tomorrow's future.
Now, Tim, of course, you're one of only a dozen officers around the nation to get this award, the only one in the Great Lakes region to receive this award. How does that make you feel this morning?
Now, this morning I'm pretty excited about it. I'm looking forward to tonight's events and tomorrow as well there in D.C. In the beginning, I wasn't really sure if it was real true, but it's starting to hit home now. It feels good.
In fact, Sergeant Yakovacci told me you thought it was a joke at first, that it really wasn't true.
That's true. I did. But it's now without a lot of friends and family and co-workers that got me here.
What exactly do you know about the awards ceremony you're going to be attending tonight? Who's going to be there?
Now, from what I understand, the Attorney General Janet Reno, William Sessions, the Director of the FBI, and we understand that either Vice President Gore or President Clinton will be there as well.
Boy, sounds exciting. Again, congratulations, Tim. Have a safe trip. Enjoy the awards ceremony tonight in Washington. You have certainly earned it.
Thanks a lot, Larry.
You're welcome. Flint Township Police Officer Tim Jones, and one of 12 top cops from around the country.
Yeah, it's a terrific story.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Well,
KGO-TV Channel 7, #1 in Northern California. Now Sidney Kohara, Lee Glasser. When news happens, you see it first. This is the Channel 7 Morning News.
President Clinton says that as tough as the job of keeping the peace is in Haiti and Kuwait, it is even harder here at home. Honored last night by a national police organization, Mr. Clinton praised the soldiers on duty in the Gulf and in the Caribbean. He called them true heroes.
But it's also important that the American people know that today the most dangerous work of our society is done in trying to contain violence here at home.
Mr. Clinton urged the assembled officers not to give up. We're making progress in this fight, he said.
You're watching KNTV 11, the San Jose News Channel. Now, the most comprehensive news coverage for the Santa Clara Valley. KNTV News Nightside.
And President Clinton was honored by the National Association of Police Organizations in Washington tonight. The president taking the opportunity to thank all the men and women in uniform around the world, including soldiers in Haiti and Kuwait, as well as police officers here in the U.S.
KSBW8, from the most watched station on the Central Coast. Maya Carroll, Jim Adamson. Count on Action News 8 at sunrise.
Well, top cops from across the nation are getting a big honor from President Clinton. Clinton preparing now to honor 10 police officers in a ceremony tonight. The 10 officers will receive honors for outstanding community service. The National Association of Police Organizations will present the first annual Top Cops Award. Other top law enforcement officials, including former FBI Chief William Sessions, also plan on attending tonight's ceremony.
You're watching WBZ-TV Boston. Now, Suzanne Bates, Joe Shortsleeve, Ed Carroll. Now, live, this is WBZ News 4.
2 Boston police officers have received national recognition for their efforts to communicate with inner-city youth. Tony Platt and Harold White were given honorable mentions at the first annual Top Cops Award ceremony in Washington, D.C. yesterday. President Clinton was on hand for the ceremony and thanked all of the officers for their work.
What a signal honor it is for me just to be on the stage with these 12 fine officers behind me who will be recognized later and who put their lives on the line every day as so many others do. But I am profoundly honored to be here with them, and I honor their achievements.
The awards were sponsored by the National Association of Police Organizations. Suzanne.
With us, Channel 4 News. Kelly Craig, Bob Mayer, Bob Weaver. Live, this is Today in South Florida.
Well, if you're on the streets of Little Havana, look out for one of Miami's top police officers. President Clinton, along with the National Association of Police Officers, presented Top Cop Awards to America's best, including one of our own. Officer Freddie D'Agostino was one of the few proud award recipients of the Top Cop Award last night. Supervisors say he's an exceptional officer who really cares about his community. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, always nice to have some good news.
Yeah, there's a lot of it out there, too.
Yeah, we don't have enough of it. Good news, though.
You're absolutely right.
Channel 10, WPLG, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. This is Eyewitness News Daybreak from South Florida's #1 news team.
Well, one of South Florida's top cops was honored as one of the best in the country. Yesterday, President Clinton honored America's top 10 law enforcement officers. Miami Patrolman Freddie D'Agostino was recognized for being courteous, professional, and prolific during a White House ceremony. D'Agostino made 451 arrests last year. Nice to hear about the good guys.
Yeah, congratulations.
Good morning from WPTV, West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Vero Beach. Now, the day's first and most complete look at local news with Today on 5.
America's top cops were honored by the National Association of Police Organizations last night. President Clinton attended the ceremony and extended his thanks to the officers and to those who fought to revive the crime bill. Several officers received awards, and Mr. Clinton told the crowd it was an honor to recognize those who put their lives on the line every day for the safety of others.
You are watching Channel 4 News, coverage you can count on. Now, live in Southern California, this is Channel 4 News at 11.
And in Washington, D.C., President Clinton honored America's top cops tonight. The president was on hand as the National Association of Police honored some of its own They had a special jacket made up as a gift for Mr. Clinton, and in turn, he thanked them for their backing and their help in passing his crime bill.
Newsbeat Today with Rich Make, Catherine Adams, and Mal Sillers.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Newsbeat Today. President Clinton will honor 10 police officers from around the country tonight for their outstanding community service. The first annual Top Cops Awards will be presented by the National Association of Police Organizations. Other top law enforcement officials, including former FBI Chief William Sessions, will attend.
Channel 9 News with Brenda Blackman, Lloyd Lindsay Young's weather, Russ Salzberg on sports, and the entire Channel 9 News team.
Who cared for her? Peter Falk says this crime is out of Colombo's jurisdiction. And a real New York crime fighter is now one of the country's top cops. Detective Arlene Beckel stopped the beauty salon holdup last spring when the robber's gun misfired as he tried to shoot her. Today, she was named a top cop by the National Association of Police Organizations.
Care 11 News with Paul Majors, Diana Pierce, Randy Shaver, sports, and meteorologist Ken Barlow.
A Minneapolis police officer is being honored in Washington by the president tonight. Officer William Woodis is one of the nation's top cops. Woodis, along with 9 other officers, were commended for outstanding service to their communities. Woodis and his partner, John Delmonico, recovered a specially designed van which had been stolen from an Iowa family while they were in St. Paul last November for their daughter's annual checkup. The officers drove all night and on their own time to return the van to the family.
Live from KSTP-TV St. Paul, Minneapolis, this is Channel 5 Eyewitness News at 6.
Their motto, to serve and to protect. It's not easy being a police officer. Well, congratulations are in store tonight for one Minneapolis officer who went far beyond the call of duty. His efforts earned him a trip to the White House. Reporter Michael Gargiulo joins us from Washington.
Michael, tell us about our top cop hero.
Well, I'll tell you, had a great time last night. We are joining you from the White House, and this is a pretty far distance away from the Minneapolis Police Department's 3rd Precinct, which is Officer William Woodis' normal beat. But last night he found himself here, along with the resident of the house behind me, when he was honored as being one of the country's top cops. Minneapolis police officer William Woodis shared a stage with President Clinton in Washington last night as the president talked about how a visit to the Twin Cities helped rescue the crime bill.
I think we sort of jump-started the effort to pass the crime bill in Minneapolis that day when those who wanted to kill it on a technicality thought we were dead and gone and expected us to give up. We didn't.
But this event wasn't about politics. It was about ordinary police officers like William Woodis who have done extraordinary things. He was among 10 officers chosen by the National Association of Police Organizations for their first ever Top Cops Award.
Well, I was shocked. I didn't know I was put in for it, and they called me up and said, "You're going to Washington." And no, it's a great honor. It hasn't quite hit me yet. But...
Also known as a one-man narcotics unit, Woodis has probably seized more...
This Washington audience heard the story now familiar throughout the Twin Cities. How last November, Officer Woodis and his partner, Sergeant John Delmonico, recovered a specially equipped van stolen from an Iowa family who needed it to transport their severely disabled daughter. And how the officers, on their own time, drove 5 hours to Iowa to return the van to the family. This, combined with Officer Woodis' impressive drug arrest record, makes him one of the nation's top cops.
Congratulations.
It was great. It's a real honor to stand up there with a bunch of other cops that have done fantastic things, and their lives have been spared by God, and it's quite an honor.
And it's one his partner says is well-deserved.
He's the kind of police officer that if every cop in the United States was, we'd have a safer place to live.
And it was interesting, some of the policemen policewomen and female police officers who were honored last night were honored for taking action which put their lives at risk. Others were honored for contributions they made to their community, and others like Officer Woodis were honored for doing things that makes everybody feel good. They said, remember, you don't have to pull your gun to be a hero cop. Chris and Angela?
Well, Michael, how do they pick these top cops?
The police officers were nominated by officers and organizations within their own states and then forwarded to this national organization. Then from there, they picked the 10, and this is the inaugural crop of which they feel is going to be an annual award.
All right, tough act to follow, sounds like. Thank you, Michael.
Number 1 in the morning, you're watching First News with David Davis, Sally Severson, and Mark Johnson.
President Clinton giving his thanks to the men and women in blue, all of those who serve their country in uniform, including soldiers in Haiti and Kuwait and Cuba. He was honored by the National Association of Police Organizations last night and given a T-shirt that said, well, right there, America's Top Cop.
I spent 40 years in the Postal Service, and I retired in 1986. And I thought I'd spend the rest of my life traveling and playing golf, and I did that for a year and a half. But I decided that that was a higher calling.
What I do know about these kids is what we're saying to them is, look, we really care, and we're going to put up with you, and we're going to battle, and we're going to fight for your life. And boy, that makes a difference.
This is not just a job for me to come in here and talk to you this way that they're paying me for. I'm here because I want to be. There's nothing better than, nothing more satisfying for me than to be here in this capacity.
If you say, well, it's not my problem, and the next man says it's not my problem, then it'll never be solved. If we all don't take some part in it, whether it's volunteering or going out on the street and ministering or whatever, if everybody doesn't get involved, then I don't think we'll get much farther than we are now.
Some people donate money. I donate my time. You said it was volunteerism. I look at that's my passion.
We can't just hope. We have to do something about it. You can't say, I'm just one person, I'm not going to impact anybody, because one person will impact another person who will impact another person, and it will go on forever.
But I'm committed to the process that in spite of what does or does not happen, in the long run, in the final analysis, it rests with me.
We're at the 5-year point where we've got a half a generation of young people turned off in this community. And when they come out of there, they're going to lead America out of this problem.
I think that we have made a lot of progress, particularly in the prevention arena, which is where I have worked the most. I think the awareness level has increased tremendously. Our youth today are not the in-group if they are using drugs. 15 years ago they were.
5 years ago, I think the problem was running amok. I think in some parts of our society, some age groups, it still is. But we see dramatic changes in our high school and in our grammar school children. And that is the old cliche, they are our future. It's the truth, they are.
I'm very optimistic. I'm realistic and I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic because of the work that I've seen happen with young people, the realization I've seen happen with those who have been on drugs, hooked on drugs, and gotten the monkey off their back.
My brother, he owned 2 automobile agencies, an auto leasing company. He had the American dream. He lived in a suburb of San Jose, California, a wife, 2 children. 5 years ago, he died, separated from his family, abandoned his children, lost his businesses, had no friends, and he died from cocaine.
You'd think somebody like me could escape the problem in their personal lives, wouldn't you? No such thing. I'm dealing with it right now in my own home. Got a kid who uses drugs. Drug abuse finds the weakness in the family system and tears it apart. It creates chaos. It creates craziness.
87% of all index crimes within this state has something to do with drugs. 87% of all rapes, robberies, murders, thefts, and things of that are drug-related.
The low birth weight for substance abusers that I see is 40%, higher than any country in the world, any third world country. I feel Houston, Texas should apply for money from the UN as a third world country, because that's how bad our low birth weight statistics are.
This is not a black or white problem. It's not a poor or a middle class or affluent problem. It's an American dilemma.
The other side of that issue is we never win this war putting people in jail. Anybody that tells you that is absolutely doesn't know what they're talking about. We win this war by changing attitude.
The people I talk to, and even our narcotic officers, they're frustrated. They're very frustrated. And they say, hey, we hope that the efforts that you guys are making out there in those schools is what's going to turn this thing around.
We in the police department determined a long time ago that there's no way that we're going to be able to arrest all the people using drugs. There's no way we're going to be able to stop all the drugs coming into this country.
If cocaine disappeared tomorrow, the drug problem isn't over, because it's the demand side that's pushing this. You know, I'm in business, and what I look for is what people want, and that's what I go deliver.
We need interdiction, we need law enforcement, but the emphasis must be on education, prevention. We have to focus on the demand side of this problem, because as long as there's a demand, there is always going to be a supply.
Political issues sometimes generate the decisions that national leadership make, not necessarily what needs to be done.
It is significant to note that as we look at all the presidential hopefuls, no one, once again, as part of their platform, has made the eradication of drugs from our midst an issue in this point.
I mean, if you listen to the politics today, our people who are running for president, they're defending their drug use, not talking about it.
Yes, I have not heard a candidate yet on either side, whether it be Democrat or Republican or vegetarian or independent, talk about the issues other than as it relates to the economy. But how can you talk about a national policy strategy to make life better for 250 million people without talking about drugs and the crime and violence associated with it?
I think it's a shame that politicians are not at the forefront of this effort, but I think it's because they don't know what to say.
I think that what's coming out of the White House was a very exciting message several years ago, an extremely energizing message. We get energized, we do the right things, we start to do the right things and go in the right process, and it's like no longer do we have that kind of a backing. And so that's very sad, and it's very scary, actually.
What are you guys going to do in Washington? You want us to fight the war, but where are you personally involved? I have never had a congressman or a senator call our organization and ask to come to a meeting and sit in and see what we're doing.
You know why he's not? Because I think all these politicians and these great advisors to the president, there are a lot of great ones. I hope they don't take my comments wrong if they see this video. They're very smart in the sense of telling the government, the president, how to win an election. But when they're advising him, if they are, to stay away from this topic of drugs because it's going to turn into a political deal and it's a negative for the President of the United States, I'm telling you, Mr. President, they're wrong. This is not a political issue, and the people in this community, which I know very well, do not look at this as a political issue with the President of the United States. And if they're advising him that it's a detriment to him and that he should get away from it and leave it alone until the election's over, etc., those people are wrong, and you ought to listen to the people that are down here that are going to put our stamp in the box for him because he's doing the right thing on this issue, and he needs to stay out front.
I would say, in all honesty, that it could be a generation before this problem is solved enough that it's within control. Now, how do you sustain political momentum for a generation? Very, very difficult. This republic is not easily governed. That's part of its glory. It's also part of the difficulty of longer-term solutions with the shorter-term political cycles. How do you do it? I think you go to your political leaders, all of them in both parties, and you try to persuade them that, number one, it is a problem of enormous magnitude, and number two, it's got to be solved for their constituents, for themselves, for their children, but for their constituents. And number three, let's sit down and see if we can't work something out that is a reasonable political compromise in the great way of the American democracy. I think we can do it.
New form of vandalism. It's a common urban problem. There's hardly a city that doesn't have a problem with vandals scrawling graffiti on everything from walls to the sides of city buses. But until now, it's been pretty much a non-violent crime. It has turned deadly in Los Angeles. Here's ABC's Ron Claiborne.
These days in Southern California, writing on a wall can cost you your life. Earlier this month, a gunman opened fire on members of a rival graffiti gang, killing one man. Days later, a 20-year-old man was fatally shot at a fast food restaurant in another dispute over graffiti. Graffiti, of course, is not a new problem here or in other cities, but the emergence of hundreds of new teenage gangs known as tagging crews, whose only purpose is to scrawl their slogans anywhere and everywhere they can, has led to an epidemic of vandalism and sometimes to violence.
They get mad because we write in their hood, so they come down to us and they say, why you guys mob on our hood? And then, like, beef starts, they'd start, you know, jumping us.
Graffiti can not only cost lives, but also a lot of taxpayers' money. 5 years ago, the state spent $100,000 a year cleaning graffiti on Los Angeles County freeways. Now it spends $2 million. Road signs are a favorite target. Things have gotten so bad that razor wire is being put up around the overhead freeway signs to protect them. The transit system spends $1 million a month cleaning graffiti off buses.
A gang of them may get together and all kind of hit it with a teamwork. We've had $10,000 worth of damage done to a bus in less than a minute.
Even private houses can become graffiti galleries. Every time Naomi Algain painted the wall in front of her home, vandals would mark it up again. Now she's going to tear it down.
People go by and see all this. It makes the neighborhood look really low, you know.
Striking late at night, taggers are rarely caught or punished.
I may ask you, is tagging worth dying for, yes or no?
But in northeast Los Angeles, courts assigned some arrested taggers to a weekend boot camp started by police officer Frank DiPaolo.
What would you think of me if I went to your house, and I know where you live, tonight, and I wrote LAPD all over your walls?
The young offenders spend hundreds of hours painting over what they've defaced.
That's what we're trying to do, is make these kids understand if you play, you pay. You're going to go out and deface the neighborhood, well, then you've got to clean it up.
But even efforts like this cannot erase a graffiti problem that is spreading faster than anyone can clean up. Ron Claiborne, ABC News.
We'll be back.
Another gang. Hands-on. Pat Lalama joins us with an inside look at what is a painful but successful program.
But I do think you're going to like it. The LAPD calls it PACE, no guns and no handcuffs. With this program, officers use a much more useful weapon, fear, to reach at-risk rookie gang members and taggers. Now, it's a three-step process. Tonight, watch as officers, young offenders, and their parents meet in one small room to talk, to shout, to cry it out. And just a reminder, the language is tough but necessary before it's too late.
I'm a soldier at war, making sure you don't try to battle me no more.
Well, how would you like, my man, go into the joint, you don't even have a name, you're dehumanized. That's where your friends are going to put you, man.
Every Wednesday night, Officer Frank DiPaolo crosses an urban DMZ to face the soldiers of the street.
You want to be a big bad boy, you want to be a tough guy, you want to hang out with the homies, you want to dress like an idiot. Sooner or later, someone's going to dump you, man.
DiPaolo's shield of armor, the badge of the LAPD. Theirs, hardened hearts and tough souls. But these faces of bitter youth are not really the enemy. They are slipping into a deadly abyss, and DiPaolo wants to pull them out.
You know what's going to happen when you go to the joint, my friend? You are going to be somebody's girlfriend. They call it a bitch. Oh, yes, you will.
The words burn like acid, but they cut through the anger so apparent on these young faces and in the language of their bodies.
But I tried to tell them, you know, change a little bit, you know, for your own good, you know.
For DiPaolo, a mother's kit gloves and kind words don't work. He prefers teaching a lesson. Like the young man who just admitted that stealing cars was fun.
What kind of shoes you got on? Take one off. Give me it. It's mine. You feel stupid? Is it okay if I take your shoe then?
No.
Why is it not okay?
Because it's mine.
Well, the car you took was somebody else's.
Oh yes, the kids are indignant and defiant. But once DePaolo is able to dissolve the layers of toughness, there's always a personal story.
My dad was get drunk every day. He started fighting with my mom. So I just go out and with my friends.
Abel's story illustrates why parents are required to attend these meetings. But DePaolo finds he must also break through a barrier of parental delusion and denial.
I can't believe it, but I'm not saying I'm not going to admit it, because I just can't believe it,
And remember how you said that you realize now that games are not good for you?
DePaolo and the other PACE volunteers don't always get through, but sometimes they do, and hope is alive.
But how has it changed you as a person, your life?
Like stay in the trouble, like get back on the game.
Very good.
Start new life.
One life saved. Next week, maybe more.
So what are you doing to make this a better world and a better place?
Nothing.
Thank you. We're here to change that around.
This program does not end with the blood, sweat, and tears you saw. Tomorrow night at 11, PACE officers put some muscle into the program. Young offenders grab pails and paint and clean up the mess that they may have had a hand in creating, and they learn some very hard lessons in self-respect in that process before it's too late. I have to tell you one thing. The young man you saw named Abel, he is a success program example already. Within 2 weeks, he's already said he wants to be a police explorer. He wants the graffiti taken off his face, and the officers are going to use their own money to help have that removed.
Perfect. That's
Good.
great.
We'll see you
Thank
tomorrow
you,
for
Pat.
part 2.
All right, thanks, Pat.
The guns in the holsters and try a very different tactic to stop young offenders before it's too late. Our Pat Lalama is here right now with a compelling look at community-based policing. It's finally started.
It is starting, something we hear a lot about. Recently, this one works. It's a 3-step program. Last night, we showed you in-your-face confrontation among officers, rookie gang members, and their parents. We'll now watch part 2 of the PACE program, where officers send beginner troublemakers back out to the streets of L.A. armed only with paintbrush and pail. It's a valuable lesson in respect before it's too late.
If you don't like people telling you what to do, you really ain't going to like being in prison, because there you're a number. They're not going to call you, hey, Tommy, you'll get number 17.
They cruise the streets of a city scarred by the bloody wounds of crime. Officer Frank DePaolo knows these young men can choose one of 2 paths in life, as either accessories to LA's further destruction or the angels of its salvation.
I could have almost lost that. It got shot over here. It blew it all up right there,
In the front passenger seat, a former hardcore gangbanger, his words of wisdom just might penetrate the tattooed surfaces of the younger wannabes.
They don't have no point on losing your life over a number or a few letters.
Those few letters found in the final destination, Graffitiville, anywhere LA. And this is where the hard labor begins.
Okay, guys, we're going to get the paint out of the truck, line it up, and we're going to paint that wall nice and even, okay? You may have a business, and some little peewee is going to come over and tag your business. How are you going to feel?
Graffiti, menacing and destructive to its victims. But urban poetry, the language of recognition and status to its young authors.
You guys put this up because you want fame, right? The way you get fame is what's in your head and what's in your heart. What kind of a statement is this making? Look at me because I can write on a wall? I mean, it's crap. Anybody can write on a wall.
DePaolo hopes to paint a fresh coat of self-esteem on damaged young egos. A layer of self-respect, a layer of respect for others. They sweat out the anger and work off the resentment.
What has it done for you? Helped me stay out of trouble, stay out of the street.
If you think there is no payoff for DePaolo and the other PACE volunteers, just watch a young, hardened face soften at the sound of a few positive words.
Understand? Good guy. Got potential. I see it in you.
For For DePaula, a day's work has come to an end. For his warriors of the streets, perhaps a new life begins.
So right now I just want to have a girlfriend, work, and do something for my life.
Did the cops help you with that?
Yeah, they helped me a lot.
So the cops are like your friends now, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, now this program does not end with a single hard day's work. Tomorrow at 11, they've done the crime and the time, and now hardcore cons offer up a taste of prison life to young offenders. It is not a pretty picture, but it just might work before it's too late.
Sounds like a little pat on the back works, too.
It certainly does. Tell these kids one nice thing. They may have never heard one nice thing before.
That's
Makes
right.
a difference.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
Thanks, Pat.
It's probably one of the strangest court cases.
You want to dress like an idiot. Sooner or later, someone's going to dump you, man. Someone's going to do you. And
In step one, Officer Frank DePaula and his volunteers use tough talk to break down young offenders. In step two, taggers are forced to paint over their own graffiti. And now our Pat Lalama joins us with a chilling look at the third step of this gang prevention program.
Scares even the adults, I have to tell you. We warn you what you are about to see may be tough to watch. It does contain strong words and disturbing pictures, but we want you to see how some of society's most heinous criminals are no longer public enemies. These hardcore ex-cons have a new mission to stop young offenders from making the very same mistakes before it's too late.
I don't give a f about you! We got a place for your ass! Face the wall. Don't look at me, mother. You don't have my baby.
Got battle scars.
You want to see battle scars, dude? I'll take my shirt off and show you battle scars that you get in prison. I'll bust your ass!
They have walked the darkened path, lived the life of crime, and did the time. It is the cell block wisdom of hardcore ex-cons that may easily save a young life today.
I ain't no cop and I ain't no motherfucking social worker. I am a convict. I am the man who's going to kick your ass when you come to jail.
They are young in years, but seasoned on the mean streets of L.A. They've taken bites of the forbidden fruit, tagging, joyriding, curfew violations, stealing. And now the demons of the street know that these novices are ripe for the picking, ready to become soldiers in the gang infantry. And that's where the cons come in.
I need to do 20 push-ups. You having trouble out there snatching purses and
Out there on the street, you're going to lose it all. You won't have nothing. You walk out gates, and you won't have nothing. There won't be no ride there to pick you up.
For that hardcore when you smoke that weed, now what are you doing now? You ain't doing nothing but sitting in a prison cell crying like a little bitch in my
They spit profane venom, humiliate, denigrate, and horrify with the sordid tales of prison existence.
You come to my world of prison, you're going to be less. You'll be cleaning my cell, doing my laundry, and taking care of my sexual fantasies, dude. Let's go. I got me 2 more.
If you don't believe what you hear, ex-con TC illustrates the role of prison girlfriends.
It's going to happen, pal, because of your looks. You got them looks that everybody likes in prison. Everybody likes that.
It is the blatant crudeness of so-called tough love, but the cons must keep drilling through emotional barriers. Take the example of a kid named Victor.
What are you calling me? Come on, take a swing.
You take a swing, fool.
Come on,
Starts in the house, you know, like with your parents and stuff, and then you get so sick of it, and you don't care what you do, you know. I can't talk to my mom because I tell her something and she'll go off, you know.
You do not have the heart of a killer. You ain't a hard person, because it scares you to death when you've seen hard. Almost all my life has been locked up. Before, I'd have probably just walked by that kid and thought, oh, well, lame will learn his own lesson. But now I feel things for people. You can't go to your dad and talk or what, huh? Anytime you feel you want to do something stupid, call me. You want somebody to beat up, call me. I picked one out of the crowd today, my attitude, my disposition at that age. I had the answers to everything, I'd already lived it all. Some other like you ain't got no sense to realize what's happening. Deal something in your life. We rag hard. But once you get them to break down, then you can go side to them and explain to them. The only reason we're here is because we care. Come on, let's go back to our friends, buddy.
Because, I mean, I learned my lesson. You know, I've been through a lot, so.
I think what you need is people to reach out and grab these kids and let them know that they're loved. I'm not your father, but I can be your best friend.
It's a successful program, but almost frightening to think of the literally thousands of young people who will never get a second chance. We wish all of them well.
And they're still out there. Thanks, Pat. Good report.
Good series.
You know, spring is just a few days away, and the weekend is even.
Gang, hope thanks to a unique program by the LAPD's Central Division.
Because we could be in jail right now and they're giving us a second chance.
A second chance. That's what these reformed gang members want and need. And the police officers helping them believe they deserve that second chance.
You know, I'll tell you, give these kids a cause. They're not born bad. They're not inherently bad kids. You got to give them a cause, give them a reason for getting up in the morning. That's what we try to do. Like this guy, now he's a part of our group today. Who knows? We'll have him and his parent in next Wednesday for counseling, and hopefully that's another former gang member who's now with the cops.
Up! Down! Forward, sir!
For many of these former gang members, the path towards a new life begins here, at boot camp. Then it's off to do community service, painting over the same graffiti their fellow gang members spray painted in the not-too-distant past. One of the success stories is a guy we'll call Jose, a former gang member who's been arrested a number of times. But he's leading a very different life now.
6 months ago, again, Jose would have been putting this graffiti up. Jose might have been the guy to carjack you. Today, he's in the Explorer Academy with hopes of becoming a police officer, and he's one of the best candidates we have. And he's here working with other gang members trying to turn them around.
Part of Jose's new life is getting rid of his gang tattoos. The 18 stands for the 18th Street Gang. Jose hopes that removing the tattoo will help him get a decent job. He says with the tattoo, employers were afraid to hire him.
We wish him well. The Central Division program only helps a couple of the LA's gang members, but they hope to expand that program to help even more. So
they can do that.
Ten, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 31, 32.
What does a garden have to do with your life? I found out, okay? We take more bean and then we plant it. To take care of that bean, I mean, to put it in as deep as it needs to go, requires attention. To take the limestone that we take, to put into the beds, to make sure that it grows, requires attention also. Okay, and then what they do is they relate this or use some type of analogy that'll make you think, hey, if I can take care of this poverty, why can't I take care of myself?
I really like the winter time here the best because all the perennials are looking dead. And then the people that are here in the wintertime are able to see them magically come back to life. But in order for that to happen, there are things preparatory to spring that we must do. We must clear the weeds from around the perennials. We have to feed them with manure and compost that we've made.
I love the compost pile because in our method of gardening, we take every troubled spot, every yellow leaf, everything that is considered waste, and we turn it back into rich soil. We have a saying out here that a mistake is only a mistake if you don't learn from it. But as long as you learn from the mistake and turn it into a lesson, it can actually be beneficial to your growth.
The horticulture program began in 1982. I was diagnosed as having a very serious kidney disease. And while I was in the hospital, a good friend of mine gave me The Grapes of Wrath to read.
It really struck me. It struck me that the people that I had tried to reach in the smoke-filled cells in the jail as a counselor for previous years, that they were a lot like these poor people in this Grapes of Wrath. I mean, they were independent, they were strong. The women that mostly that I worked with as a counselor, most of the women were in for prostitution. You know how hard it is to stand on a corner at night, freezing your ass off with no clothes on practically. I mean, they strong women, but on the wrong track. And I said, I want to take the people out to this empty farm and we could clean it up and maybe we could grow things. I remember thinking they won't respond good because in America, working in the soil, working in, outside is not a prestigious thing. Everyone wants to be a lawyer. Everyone wants to have a briefcase. And so I remember thinking that maybe it's not possible to bring these people out here. But the Grapes of Wrath made me see that that was different, that it wasn't so. And I remember I was standing in front of this 25-year-old rose bramble bush and saying one day to these guys, if we could move that rose bush, we could put beds there. And they said, is that what you want, Kathy? And I was like, yeah, but we don't have the tools, we can't do it. It's impossible, it's a wall. And they said, oh no, they took off their shirts. And like some of them, I remember this one big giant white guy with tattoos everywhere. I mean, he was pulling them with his hands and his hands were bleeding. Each morning, we start as a group. We come together as a group. We focus on botany to an extent. I mean, but just imagine this. I mean, imagine explaining asexual propagation to somebody who has 65 arrests for prostitution. But this person is listening because they hear the enthusiasm in your voice and they see that this might be a way out of this mess.
I was wondering if you've been talking to the president. I've seen on the news that he has plans of planting 1 million trees a year.
It's actually 1 billion trees.
1 billion?
Hey, it's the funny thing is that unless something like that happens, the planet's still not going to be here. But see, it's not just trees. They got to start planting you guys, is my feeling. And my feeling is we got to integrate that. We got to say, we're going to plant 1 billion trees. Let's pay a tree corps to care for them and pay them to make a new life. Let's do that. Let's work to change our communities. And this planet, let's do that. A tree corps, I like that.
After that, then we come out and we work in the garden. What I choose not to say field.
We have people planting tons of seeds in the greenhouse. We do hundreds of seedling trays in the springtime so that there are millions of seeds sprouting. There's new growth everywhere. It's a time of really inspiration in terms of the belief that what I plant is going to grow.
When I got here, I planted the pumpkins out there, and I didn't think none of them would come up. Now, in October, I was proud to see all those pumpkins come up. And I planted those out there, and I felt good. I got to give pumpkins away to people, you know, the visitors that came out here. And I grew those pumpkins.
It's kind of respect. It's kind of respect between the plant and you, because if you do it wrong, the plant is gonna die. If you do it right, the plant is gonna live. We can relate those things with the people right here. If you don't respect the people right here, this is not gonna work at all. I'm a Latino, man, from my heart, and I don't feel less than nobody. Even I don't feel more than nobody. I feel exactly. Everybody has the same capacity for everything. God gave us intelligence, 2 hands, 2 eyes. Doesn't matter the color. It doesn't matter. You are just a human being. But many people right here confuse that. The racist problem is really big in jail. It's really strong. But being here working on horticulture or being here working in the greenhouse is something, some way is going to help people to know each other. I mean, to know the other people. You got to work with some people that you've never seen before, that you don't know how they think, that you don't know how they feel.
We grow a variety of species together, different varieties of plants, different families of plants that can help each other in the garden, that can deter diseases from the plants, that benefit each other's growth. We're growing flowers, we're growing herbs, and we're growing vegetables together. When you go in the woods, you very rarely see plants that are diseased because of the varieties that are grown around them. We use this technique because in our own lives, we will sometimes plant ourselves next to people that are not good for us.
Weeding is something that we do to give plants room to grow, because the weeds, they tend to choke plants in a way. They latch onto them, they choke them, and they take from them, sort of like a leech. And we apply that to our lives as though drugs and alcohol are like a weed in some of our lives that we have to weed out, that we have to cut at the roots and take out and in order to grow as a healthy human being and be productive in a society.
I am in charge to the greenhouse. What I do every day is water the plants, transplanting, keep this place clean. But especially what I do is feed myself, my own self, with some kind of, I don't know how to describe that, something I discovered when I came over here, love for plants. I didn't know, I never know that I had this kind of feelings inside of me. Now I do.
Yeah, I like flowers. Flowers is my thing. So I take care of my beautiful yard behind me. I come out here and talk to my flowers, you know, tell them I love them, you know, water them. And when I see the dead ones, pick them off so the other ones can have a chance to grow, you know.
They told me inside that it's co-ed. There's women out here that work with you too. I said, well, you know, I get to see women, I get to be outside and get to talk. And I came out here really for socializing with women at first.
We're out here focusing, making a difference in our life. That's what we're doing. We don't come out here to visit with the women. We come out here to visit with our souls. That's why we're here.
Sure, there was people who came up to me and would be disrespectful or say things, and I just turned around and say, you know, talk to them. Please don't talk to me like that. I'm not the person who likes to be talked to like that. And everybody, you know, treats me with respect. And if they don't, I don't talk to them. You know, because there's always going to be people in the crowd that don't know how to treat other people. It's always going to be that. You know, after all, we are in jail, and people don't know how to act sometimes.
Basically, women, if you really put your mind to it, they'll get you in more trouble and catch you a ride-up quicker than just you and the fellas being out here. You know? Because you can't be by them. They can't be by you, and if you get caught or they get caught touching your shoulder or something, you know, that's automatic roll-up, maybe 30 days.
In terms of sexism, a lot of the guys are learning new things about women, because in living in the street and living as they've done growing up in America, they have a really crazy sense of women. But working with me and Arlene and the other women here, they're learning and seeing something different. And I think that's true for racism and for homophobia as well.
When you plant a plant and then you see it sprout up the next day, and then as months go on, then you be able to eat the fruit that it has bared off this plant. It's like you plant something, you see it grow up. I get self-gratitude out of it. Don't nobody have to tell me thank you, because I know what I have done. And I know it's been positive, and it took a lot of me to turn that bed and to plant that seed and to watch it grow. The food that we grow, it goes everywhere. To Fillmore, to Hunters Point, to soup kitchens all around San Francisco. Because we figure we take a lot out of our community. And this is a way of giving back to our community by growing produce for them. And we take pride in what we do here. So we grow the best and we give the best food to the people.
Every time we're picking something, when we put it in a crate, we know where it's going and we know it's going to help somebody. And it gives you motivation to want to come out here and do that, you know. If it was just going to our kitchen where we eat, I don't think it would be quite the same, you know. It's a little bit more special. There's no jail that has as a basic goal gardening as therapy. So this is a model. I want other jails to look at what we're doing and say, we could do that too. Why are we keeping people in cages and doing horrible things to them and then expecting them to leave those horrible cages and come back and be normal and nice people living with everyone? That's not going to happen. But most jails have a lot of land like this one does. And most places in this country have poor people. We could grow food for them. We could grow trees. You come in here and you start doing something. A lot of people who come in here haven't had jobs, steady jobs. They, you know, or they sold dope. And they come here, you got to get up at 6 in the morning. You got to get dressed, you got to get ready, and for them that's unheard of. I mean, I've heard people say it's the earliest I've ever been up in my life, you know, and it's a ritual every day, what you got to do. And then pretty soon you start seeing these people that aren't used to it wanting to go out on weekends too.
The people that want to leave, I try to talk to them and I say, you know what I'm saying, well, why do you want to leave? And they say, well, they're just brainwashing you, you know. All they want you to do is work for them. They want you to farm or to till the land and to weed these plants and stuff like that, you know. And I said, no, they don't want you to work for them. They want you to work for yourself. A lot of people who thought about leaving that I talked to, and I said, well, just give it a couple more days. They gave it a couple more days. Whereas when they first came out here, they would be stepping in the beds. Now that they've been out here a month, they would tell you, or a deputy, or the sheriff, not to step in that bed.
We need jobs. We need money to keep this program going. We need a shelter for when the people leave here. They could have a place to go to instead of going, when they drop you off at 850 Bryant, what are you gonna do, walk up 6th Street? And there's a liquor store, but we have to have a house maybe that they could go to and have something on the outside, like a little, we have to start a horticulture project, which I think they got one going, planting trees outside to keep this going.
I'm very pleased with the program at the jail, but it seemed to me inconsistent to only have a program like that at the jail. We invite people that have been in the program at the jail in San Bruno to come here after they get out of the jail, if they want to be serious, if they are not using drugs or alcohol, if they'd like to work with us, to come to talk to us. The garden is in Bayview Hunters Point in San Francisco. It's about 2 miles from Candlestick Park. And a lot of the people that are in our jail are from this neighborhood. This, where we're sitting now, used to be a garbage dump. It was a vacant lot that was filled with garbage, and it was less than a year ago. And what we've done is we've made it into a functioning, usable place that is beautiful and brings together the fact that the environment and these people come together to make a big change. And we're selling food to different restaurants, and also this is Just Dessert's main bakery, and we sold strawberries to them.
It used to upset me so bad to see the people return. What upset me not so much was the fact that they returned, because I know what's out there for them. What upset me was how happy they were to be back. They would say, "Kathy, hi, I'm back, and I'm gonna grow, and we're gonna do this, and I can't wait to get back outside." And I was horrified. Each and every time I was horrified, because they were saying the truth, that this was the best thing that had happened to them, and they had worked to get back here to it.
Then the bell rings. It's back to life. Back to reality. We're back in San Bruno County Jail, and it's back off into the dorms we go. But before we go, Kathy always tells us not to forget that that we are people, and just because we did something bad doesn't make us bad people. Okay. And I will always love her and Arlene for that. Always.
What this program does, what I've seen it do, is I've seen it make people who have no hope have hope, which is a tremendously powerful thing. And it's, I don't think it's because of me or because of the staff here. I do think that it is what they're doing. They're because of their work, they're giving themselves to people who don't have anything. Food for people, but also trees to streets where there aren't trees, and flowers where there are no flowers, which is as important as giving vegetables or food to people who have no food. And it's not me, it's not my staff, it's working with these green things gives them a sense of life, and most of them have never had it from anywhere else.
I like to go work on a farm for somebody, and I want to be dedicated to the farm like I am here. and I want to work just as hard, and I want to stay clean. I was like a dead tree when I first came here. And I seen what watering, you can water the tree and feed it nice, and it grows up and it'll have fruit. I don't want to go back to the streets and just hang around and waste and die.
Bring me little water, Sylva. Bring me little water now. Bring me little water, Sylva. Every little once in a while. Bring me little water, Sylva. Bring me little water now. Bring me little water, Sylva. Every little once in a while. Can't you hear me calling you? Can't you hear me now? I need a little bit of water every little once in a while. Bring it in a bucket, Sylva. Bring it in a bucket now. Bring it in a bucket, Sylva. Every little once in a while. Sylva, come running, bucket in her hand. I will bring you water fast as I can. Bring me little water, Sylva. Bring me little water now. Bring me little water, Sylva. Every little once in a while. Every little once in a while. Every little once in a while.
When you consider substance abuse in America, the problems surrounding the issue seem insurmountable. Drugs in the workplace has become a real problem in America. It is one that can't be ignored. And the question becomes, how can we effectively address substance abuse in the workplace as well as the communities where we all live? Well, CAPA believes that focusing on prevention is the key.
In 1986 and 1987, the leadership of the private sector in the greater Washington area started to get very concerned about what seemed to be a large increase in the use of illegal drugs, particularly cocaine and the then new form of crack. We looked around the rest of the country. We saw that there were a lot of unconnected, one-shot programs. So the community got together. We decided that a corporation, an operational organization, rather than just an occasional set of people who would get around once a month, sit down over coffee and talk, was called for. And being business people, we started a corporation. It seemed like a very natural thing to do, and with great imagination, we named it the Corporation Against Drug Abuse. So the first, and still the core program of CAPA, is a program to deal with drug use in the workplace, to help companies help their own employees fight drug use when it starts and try to prevent it starting.
Studies have shown that the drug abuse problem in the Washington, D.C. area is one of the worst in the country. It is estimated that the cost of substance abuse to the Washington area communities is about $4 billion a year. That figure is felt especially hard in the workplace. Up to 25% of all American workers are substance abusers. 75% of employed drug users use drugs on the job. Businesses are losing thousands of dollars each year in absenteeism, lost productivity, accidents on the job, and health insurance claims. Treatment for a drug abuser costs anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000. And with the rising cost of health care, the burden on the employer has increased dramatically. CAPA's prevention strategies and initiatives designed for the workplace have been very successful in helping employers provide a safe, healthy, and more productive environment for their employees.
About a little over a year ago, Cable TV Montgomery wanted to enhance its drug and alcohol policy to possibly include testing. We have trucks that roll all over the county here in Montgomery County. We have installers who go out into customers' homes, and we wanted to really make sure that the quality of the employees that we were sending out into customers' homes was as safe as could be. We went ahead and called CAPA. They sent some representatives out and really went over the issues that we were facing as an employer with our employees in rolling out a drug testing program. And they were very informative. They helped us go over the issues we needed to address, and they gave us some focus on really what we needed to do to get a drug testing program rolled out.
CAPA's workplace programs provide information and assistance to employers that want a drug-free workplace. They are provided free of charge. CAPA has provided assistance to more than 600 employers across the country in the development of drug-free workplace policies and programs that cover more than 400,000 employees. CAPA also created the Washington Employer Resource Consortium, or WORK. Underwritten by a major grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, it provides employers in the Washington metropolitan area with the information and the technical expertise necessary to reduce the negative impact of substance abuse in the workplace. Work members have access to high-quality, low-cost drug testing and employee assistance programs.
The thing that's nice about CAPA is it's very easy to describe what its mission is. CAPA's job is to mobilize the business community in the Washington area to fight drug abuse, mainly through prevention. Well, I think CAPA is ready to move on, or it is moving on really, to a second phase. The original phase was to develop programs to help especially small business learn how to deal with drug abuse problems in the workplace. And now what we're doing is we're continuing to roll that out to reach more members, especially of the small business community, to help them put in place employee assistance programs and to continue to provide legal and other support as needed.
Addressing the substance abuse problem in the workplace is only part of the CAPA story. CAPA has worked consistently to develop effective youth prevention strategies. CAPA is implementing a cost-effective, high-impact program that has been used as the prevention curriculum of the District of Columbia school system. It is called Project STAR, which stands for Students Taught Resistance and Awareness. Project STAR has been recognized as one of the most effective substance abuse prevention curriculums in the country. CAPA's program is being expanded to all D.C. junior high and middle schools. Making a strong commitment to something you believe in is indeed very important. CAPA's Board of Directors has made that kind of commitment to the success of the organization by making many of their resources, including personnel, available to work hand in hand with the CAPA staff to ensure the success of the organization.
As a loan executive from MCI, I bring to CAPA 11 years of entrepreneur spirit and culture as MCI has. But more importantly, I bring a process, a strategic and tactical process at looking at how we may attack the substance abuse problem. I think in the past, nonprofit organizations have looked at it from a singular perspective. What I like to do is take the community, the corporations, and the government and look at integrating the strategies of those three. What we may discover is that there is a lot of synergy that is now lost as a result of their singular approach. By integrating the approach, by allowing a CAPA to take the lead on looking at what those programs are, we may discover that we would find cost-effective programs.
Since 1988, the Corporation Against Drug Abuse has successfully addressed the substance abuse problem by developing effective prevention strategies. It is a volunteer-driven organization, and its board of directors make a commitment of time and of the resources of their organizations to help CATA develop and implement programs aimed at preventing drug abuse in the metropolitan area.
CATA has been successful because it's utilized maximum resources. It's pinpointed and focused on the problem, and that problem has been correctly identified, and the solutions have been carefully chosen to deal with those problems. And because the business community has really stepped up and put itself behind this effort, because it knows it's important to its community, and to its bottom line, and to the citizens. And I think because we have a superb staff, and because citizens are ready for change and want action in this area, so there's been a lot of cooperation in the community as well. Hard work, great board, good staff, maximum use of limited resources, good volunteers have all contributed to those successes.
We could all argue endlessly about the causes of substance abuse in this country and how to go about waging a war on drugs. But no one would argue that more effective solutions must be developed and implemented in order for a real change to be seen and felt in America. The Corporation Against Drug Abuse has been focused on prevention, stopping the problem before it starts. As you have seen, CATA's workplace initiatives and youth prevention strategies have had significant success, and they are continuing to grow. We welcome your support in continuing that growth and making CATA work for all of us. The problem is massive. Prevention is the answer. CATA means prevention.
The Insurance Information Institute and the National Commission Against Drunk Driving recently held a conference on the many creative local programs which address aspects of drunk driving. We saw that drunk driving is being attacked on several fronts. One special part of the issue concerns repeat offenders. While relatively few people who drive under the influence of alcohol are actually arrested, a large portion of those caught are problem drinkers. Each year, about 1/3 of those arrested for drunk driving are repeat offenders. Prince George's County, Maryland has an effective and unusual program to deal with this issue. We've produced this tape to tell you more about it.
I do smell alcohol. Come on over.
How long has it been since your last drink, sir?
You're under arrest for drinking and driving.
You're going to be detained for the charge of driving under the influence.
I got my 4th DWI. I was involved in a traffic accident that involved a fatality.
I was caught DWI 5 times.
Well, I haven't drank since July 1st, 1988.
This place made me realize what my problem was.
And it put me on the track to recovery. I was drunk driving, and the county sheriff pulled me over and asked me to say the alphabet. And of course, I told him I couldn't say it because I didn't have an education, which is not true, but I couldn't say it. So I was arrested. Made a beginning here. It started me. I've been a drunk for 26 years. I've been in and out of self-help programs and institutions and other rehabilitations for about 11 years. It just all came together in July of '88.
The Prince George's County DWI facility has become one of the most effective repeat offender programs in the country. And as a result, more and more people want to know what makes it work.
The first thing they always ask, do you really charge people for being in your DWI facility? And this seems to just amaze them. And the answer is yes. I mean, these are, again, for the most part, working individuals. And if they can't pay right then and there, we bill them. And that part has worked well. The second thing is they're stunned by an 8% recidivism rate.
We have had untold numbers of visitors. And everyone that has taken the time to look at death at that facility now wants to have one of their own.
Development of the DWI facility began in 1983. a year in which almost 400 died on Maryland's highways as a result of drunk drivers. There were more than 4,700 DWI arrests in Prince George's County that year, and community groups were angry.
And what they wanted us to do was to be effective, not just to arrest a person, have them brought down to the county seat and given a fine and then released or even given a few days. But what they wanted was people to stop driving under the influence.
I was visiting with a neighbor who had lost a daughter in a drunk driving accident, a high schooler, a senior in high school, and the question was asked to me, what are you going to do about the number of people being killed by drunk drivers in our community?
Maryland State Delegate Pauline Minnis proposed legislation that prompted the development of the facility.
The officials in my county decided that they'd like to try something of this nature because they saw an escalating use of space in our jail for drunk driving offenders, and realized that this was a growing problem.
All rise. Fifth District Court in Prince George's County, State of Maryland, holding criminal court is now in session.
The judges were looking for alternative sentencing because there were so many drunk driving cases, and there was no treatment in the jail. They were going to jail into overcrowded conditions, and we weren't solving the problem.
I don't think any of the lawyers in Prince George's County would like to go back to the situation we had before we had the facility.
The only thing you could do would be to send them to some type of an alcohol program with the health department or one of these private providers.
Too many people think there's a simple solution to the problem of drunken driving. Just go out and crack down on the problem and it will somehow solve itself. The problem is much more complicated than that. What we need are programs targeted at the various subsets of the problem.
You know, I was in kind of denial that it had nothing to do with my everyday life, and not admitting that I had a problem with alcohol or being.
During the first 6 years of the program, more than 5,000 drunk drivers have come through the facility. Only 8% of them have been back to court on a DWI, compared to a national average of 30%.
We're talking about people that have had 2 or 3 drunk driving incidents in the past. To say an 8% recidivist rate with a group like that is phenomenal.
Dr. Robert Voss, given a grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation to study the facility, says the results were surprising.
And we found that those who did not go to the center had 3 times as many reoffenses as those who did go to the center.
The police have always been concerned about repeat offenders. You know, we make an arrest, prosecute, these people are convicted, they're fined or they're jailed, whatever the sanction, and then several months later they're arrested again. We're very concerned about that. What we've seen with this facility is, though, repeat offenders aren't coming out and driving drunk again.
I appreciate it if you put your hands here and take a step back, please. Okay, thank you.
County officials refer to the facility as the DWI jail, and repeat offenders are sentenced for an average stay of 28 days. They are constantly reminded that the center is part of the correctional system.
The jail across the street, it helps, because it also helps keep you in order here, because you know if you mess up and break some of the rules, that you can go over there.
The nice psychology of having the DWI facility just across the street from the jail lets everyone fully understand every day that they pass, there but for the grace of God I could be. And I don't let that message get missed by many people.
And one of the things that seems very important from our perspective is that treatment is the way to be able to rehabilitate people. And when you put them in jails for any length of time or number of days, it only takes them off the road for those days. It does not speak to the need of the people.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving's Annie Powell says the program works because of the unique way it combines incarceration with treatment.
Take off your shoes one by one and hand them to me. I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Repeat offenders can work at their jobs during the day, but are confined to the facility at night and weekends for counseling. Powell says there are several factors that have contributed to the success.
I think the programs that they offer, the fact that people have to check in each night, that they have to go through a routine of knowing whether or not they have consumed alcohol, and then they have to go through the programs that they provide at night and on the weekends.
What I wanted was a solution that involved relatively little money, but that was also effective.
The DWI facility started with a $500,000 matching grant from the Maryland State Legislature and is entirely self-supporting. Repeat offenders pay $36 a day.
When you say what is success, one was cost containment, and in fact we found between the grant and between having people pay for this that we have actually running in the black, no cost at all associated with it. Secondly, we found that we were able to reduce the impact that would normally be on our correction facility, but perhaps most importantly, there have been 3 different studies, and they show our recidivism rate to be, all 3 studies, to be right around 8%.
The program is effective because it is backed by the police, the courts, public health officials, and community organizations.
You've got to bring together all of the different components, law enforcement, corrections, treatment, the judicial process, and so on, and say to all of them 2 things. What do you want out of the system to make this work? And secondly, will you be an important part of the system?
Could other facilities or other agencies do the same thing, or counties? I'd like to tell you that we were so unique that nobody else could repeat it. That isn't so. Someone could take this model and build it around local needs wherever and be off and running in less than 2 years.
Okay, going back to the room.
The DWI facility has accomplished more than what I hoped it would.
One of the things that we feel very strongly about at MAD, that people really need to have treatment along with their incarceration. If they're ever going to see the error of their ways, so to speak, this is the way to be able to do that.
This place made me realize what my problem was, and it also showed me what I had to do after I got out of here to get my life back in order.
Anything we can do to remove these drunk drivers from the highway. And if we have a convicted drunk driver, we put them in a facility where they're incarcerated, yet they're also getting treatment and counseling, and it shows that it's working. That's what we want to do.
I think every lawyer would like to have a DWI facility in his backyard.
The beautiful thing about the facility is that it gives us an alternative.
Would other communities benefit from doing the same thing that Prince George's County did? The answer there is absolutely yes.
While the nation struggles to deal with the high costs and availability of health care, there is one local hospital that is doing quite well, maybe too well.
Tonight, Bill Elder begins a series of startling reports about how New Orleans General is raking in government Medicaid dollars, while at the same time the lives of some of its young patients are allegedly being ruined.
Imagine, if you will, a hospital that has found a way to get the federal Medicaid program to pay it 3 and sometimes even 4 times what any other hospital would charge, and they get away with it. Well, New Orleans General has found just a way to do that, and it is legal. Legal if they are providing the services they're supposed to. But we have allegations tonight, and for the next few nights, that not only are they not providing the services, but they're actually abusing the patients. And when we say abuse, wait till you hear this.
Everybody up there use drugs. All the patients up there use drugs. And there was kids up there, like up there for behavior problems that didn't have no drug problems that went in there and wound up using drugs.
17-year-old Daniel Martin is telling his story to his attorney, Ed Rodriguez.
And then they had kids in there that were 11 years old come in there and they'd see all these other big kids using drugs and they would want to do it too.
Attorney
Ed Rodriguez.
The most frightening thing is the fraudulent way that they hold themselves out as a treatment facility, as a medical facility that really cares and wants to try to rescue these young kids. It's a sin.
Attorney Ralph Whalen, who is joining Rodriguez in a class action suit, says more than half a dozen sworn depositions of the staff indicated a complete lack of trained personnel.
It would appear just to be one of a lack of training and education. There were no counselors certified in this field.
Not only was the staff not trained and equipped to counsel in drug rehabilitation or behavioral problems, according to the depositions, but some staff members, say Daniel Martin, were providing drugs to the kids.
Cocaine, there was people that had cocaine up there and crack up there also. I don't know how they went about getting it, but I'm pretty much sure it was from one of the counselors, because they'd be up there, and there's one guy that had crack up there, had maybe, say, $100 worth of crack up there, and he never had no visitors, so he couldn't have got it from none of his people.
Daniel Martin claims that he personally purchased marijuana freely from counselors anytime he wanted. Martin is still a drug abuser, and his story could be challenged by the hospital staff if it were not verified by two other youngsters who were sent there at a different time. Tammy Godwin is 14 now. Joy Shield is 15.
Cocaine, marijuana, alcohol, acid. And they were just sniffing cocaine and just smoking marijuana and stuff like that.
Tammy Godwin and Joy Shield are the types of very young kids that Daniel Martin was talking about.
I didn't have a problem with it. They just put me in there for runaway. I knew more about drugs. I was tougher. I was initially upset. I don't know, I just like rebelled against everybody when I got out of there.
Their education did not end with the drugs, say the two girls. They claim that staff members regularly permitted them to view pornographic movies depicting sexual intercourse.
They did that a lot. Every weekend we practically got that, well, even more than that.
And what followed, they say, was rampant sex among patients and counselors and patients with each other. All of this, and New Orleans General was receiving from Medicaid 3 times the amount that other hospitals get for the same service. They are getting what is called disproportionate share, a formula worked out to allegedly encourage hospitals to treat indigent patients in large quantities. Attorney Ralph Whalen represents the kids you have just heard.
They get roughly 4 times what other people would get for this sort of treatment. And as I appreciate the circumstances at the hospital, they're not giving 1/4 of the care that they ought to be giving.
Carol Solomon is a spokesman for New Orleans General Hospital.
The allegations range from sexual abuse to rape to the selling of cocaine and hallucinatory drugs and alcohol by the staffers to the inmates.
That is difficult for me to accept.
Medicaid is paying New Orleans General $35,000 for each 28-day stay. New Orleans General Hospital, because 100% of its patients are considered indigent, qualifies for what is known as disproportionate funds. The federal government forks over 3 to 4 times the actual amount of what the bill would normally come to. For instance, if the bill was $1,500, Medicaid gladly hands over $4,500. The owners of New Orleans General made a whopping 36% profit last year, pocketing almost $17 million. That, according to published reports.
Well,
Carol Solomon is the hospital spokesman.
You're also the most profitable hospital in the city right now because of that. Is that not a fact?
I'm not sure that's a fact, but if it is, then I guess we're good business people.
Carol Solomon says she knows nothing of the rapes or the sexual misconduct or the rampant drugs on the unit, but promises a full investigation.
So, you know, if there's an allegation, we'll certainly address it, and, you know, whether or not you continue to address it, we will address it and get to the bottom of it.
And they sent me a bill for $35,000.
When New Orleans juvenile court judges viewed the 2 previous reports on New Orleans General's adolescent drug rehab unit, they reacted strongly. First, Judge C. Hearns Taylor, then Judge Lawrence Lagarde.
I'm extremely concerned. The allegations are shocking.
some completely outrageous.
Well, Bill, from what I've seen, I'm totally shocked. I'm totally outraged. This matter should be fully investigated.
Dr. Daniel Johnson, a New Orleans physician who is on the policy-making board of the American Medical Association, also reacted strongly.
If that kind of behavior is taking place, it isn't a function of any kind of medical environment. It is a notion that that's criminal behavior. It's inappropriate no matter what the setting, if in fact it's taking place.
All three men have been repulsed by the allegations of three teenagers and their attorneys as to what allegedly takes place on the adolescent unit at New Orleans General. Eric Allen is a university graduate, trained in social rehabilitation, and worked as a counselor at New Orleans General for 8 months.
So you're saying it went unabated?
Exactly.
At this facility?
At this facility.
Kids having sex as young as 11 years old?
Exactly. Exactly.
And no one moved to stop it?
No one moved to stop it. No one moved to stop it at all.
Derek Allen says he soon fell out of favor with the administration when he reported unacceptable behavior by other staff members whose only qualification was that they had once been addicts themselves, and soon Derek Allen was fired. He says he desperately tried to give the kids the help that they needed, but
if it were not fighting, if it were not sex on the unit, if it were not patients against staff, there was never a cohesive effort to work together to
You're saying there was mayhem up there?
Exactly. It was a zoo. It was literally a zoo.
Her name is Catherine Stark, and before she resigned from Heritage Medical Center, which owns New Orleans General, she was the executive assistant to Nolan Simmons, the man you see in this picture. Nolan Simmons is the owner of the hospital. Catherine Stark says he ran a fraudulent operation.
Nolan was paying $125 a signature to sign charts that the doctor hadn't seen.
So this was really a conspiracy to commit fraud?
Correct.
Catherine Stark says that she learned from a counselor of widespread drug use and even of a closet where the drugs were being stored. She says she then told Nolan Simmons.
He said, just leave it to me, let me handle it. But he did nothing about it. And I was discouraged after that from talking to any of the hospital staff.
We then asked Catherine Stark if she had any problem believing the reports that were aired on this station, reports that detailed porno movies, cocaine use, and even rape of some youngsters on the unit.
I have no trouble believing that that would continue.
Catherine Stark says that Nolan Simmons often hired physicians who were not even licensed in order to be able to tell them what to do.
My initial concern about the staffing began when we tried to hire a man named Dr. Galen, G-A-L-A-N, and Dr. Galen didn't have a medical license.
Catherine Stark says that she personally knew of a $100,000 payoff that was slated to go to a high-ranking state official with the Louisiana Department of Health and Human Resources, and the money was okayed by Nolan Simmons himself.
As I understood, either $100,000 or a part of $100,000.
Which in essence would be a bribe.
Yes.
Whether the money was ever paid is not known. Catherine Stark says that the staff was so inept, so unqualified, that it would have been a miracle if anyone got any help.
The people that are in those drug rehab centers don't stand a chance, and they're the ones that need the help the most. Nobody should be allowed to do it. I don't care if it's Nolan Simmons or anybody else for that matter. They should not be allowed to abuse the public's trust. They should not be allowed to abuse the public's money. And people who have drug and alcohol-related problems have a right to fair treatment, whether they're on Medicaid or whether they're paying for it themselves.
Catherine Stark is speaking to us tonight from a secret hiding place via satellite. She says that she was threatened before about speaking out. Tonight, she has done just that. And for that, her life will now be in danger. You feel that Nolan Simmons would be a threat to the welfare, to your life, to your health?
I feel that Nolan Simmons, if not personally, would suggest to somebody that it might be good to stop somebody who had insight knowledge of what was going on in the beginning years.
Has he ever done anything to anyone that you know of?
Not that I know of.
Now, this station has made repeated attempts to interview Nolan Simmons, but have been told that he is not available.
Good evening. There are new revelations about alleged fraud and criminal misconduct inside New Orleans General Hospital.
Tonight's report involves an area of the hospital leased by New Orleans Representative Sherman Copeland. Bill Elder has the story.
Last week, this station aired 4 reports of allegations that claimed rampant drug use, porno movies, free sex, and even rape taking place in the adolescent drug rehab unit at New Orleans General Hospital. The rape victim was only 13. The adolescent unit there is run by Medical Heritage Corporation, owned by a man named Nolan Simmons. As it turns out, the 3rd floor of New Orleans General serves adult drug abusers and is operated by a separate corporation known as Reality Treatment Center. Now, one of the principal owners of Reality Treatment Center is none other than State Representative Sherman Copeland, Speaker Pro Tem of the House, and an important candidate for mayor of New Orleans. His company, Reality Treatment, operates 31 beds at New Orleans General and 52 beds at United Medical Center on St. Claude Avenue.
Ms. Morrison? Yes, I'm Bill Elder.
Bonnie Morrison was a nursing supervisor for 6 months in Mr. Copeland's drug rehab unit at New Orleans General before quitting and going to the Attorney General about what she said was fraud and misconduct.
I tell them about a lot of billings that were going on there for treatment that patients had not been given when they were in treatment for chemical dependency. I tell them about some sexual misconduct that had gone on between some of the counselors with a patient who had signed out AMA, etc., because she was scared to stay another night, about a lot of duplicate testing being done, about people being sort of just bounty hunted, actually drawn in off the street just to come in for treatment and so forth.
Right, that's what they're called, bounty hunters. Right. That's what the people that comes into the treatment center call them, bounty hunters. They will hunt them down until they get them in a car and bring them to the treatment center.
This woman was one of several addicts who confirmed what Bonnie Morrison was saying about the bounty hunting. All were afraid of being killed if identified.
It's been known that they will buy them around, have sex with them, or give them money to buy around and have sex with them before they even reach the treatment center. Yes.
This is pretty widespread?
Yes.
And you know this for a fact?
Yes.
This woman says she was a patient on 4 separate occasions at the New Orleans General site. Because New Orleans General and United Medical Center found a way to qualify for special Medicaid disproportionate funds, and by that we mean 4 times what anyone would normally be paid by Medicaid, Reality Treatment was making a financial killing, especially when the place became a revolving door.
So once they left these places, they would be back in off the street within 2 or 3 days sometime and accepted right back into treatment.
We found one youngster who had just walked out of Reality Treatment's United Medical Center site. We asked him about people he personally ran into on the unit and how many times they had been there.
Some people came in about 10 times. Some people came in about 3 or 4 times.
And how many times did you go in there?
8.
At first, a hospital spokesman confirmed that he had been in 8 times. Later, an attorney called to say it was only 2. But in any event, many of the patients who return over and over have become cash cows. This youngster would have been worth over $250,000 in Medicaid billings. Bonnie Morrison says if the patients did not qualify for Medicaid, the hospital simply didn't want them.
There were many patients that I had to send right back on the street who were in dire need of treatment and medical help that same day, but because they did not have a Medicaid card, I did have to turn away.
We traveled to Baton Rouge on May the 11th to try and speak with Sherman Copeland about this matter. We found him in a meeting room, but he refused to speak.
A spokesman for Reality Treatment Center did, however, deny any and all wrongdoing at either of the 2 Reality Treatment sites. In fact, they even denied getting Medicaid funds. Copeland's partner, Lloyd Villabasso, made the denial.
We do not influence billings. We do not do any business with the state. We have operating agreement with 2 hospitals to operate their units for them. They may do business with Medicaid. We do not.
Carol Solomon speaks for the owner of New Orleans General, which rents out 31 beds to Mr. Villabasso and Mr. Copeland's Reality Treatment Center. When she was told of that statement you just heard, she responded,
That was foolish.
I'm sorry?
think that was probably, I don't know who you spoke to over there.
Ms. Solomon went on to explain.
They cannot do business directly with Medicaid because they don't have a hospital license or provider number. So they have to do business with any insurance, Medicaid, Medicaid, whatever, through the hospital provider number. And so they bill through the hospital.
Tonight, two other women back up what Vonnie Morrison told the Attorney General. They are Karen Pearson, a registered nurse who worked for Copeland's Reality Treatment Center at the New Orleans General site, and Sandra Jordan, a recreation therapist who worked as a counselor at Copeland's United Medical Center location on St. Claude Avenue. The stories these two told closely parallels that of Vonnie Morrison.
I think it was like 3 or 4 months. But in the 3 or 4 months that I was there, I saw enough. I saw enough to last me a lifetime.
Would you characterize it as fraud?
Mm-hmm.
You're saying this was out-and-out fraud?
Out-and-out fraud, day after day after day.
The pair said that in their opinion, the patients on Reality's drug rehab units were getting dope while on the unit.
I've known of patients' urine coming up dirty. I did not see anyone exchange drugs to a patient.
But if it came up dirty, it means they had to take the drugs while they were on the unit.
Exactly, or while they were on their shopping spree.
Shopping spree?
When they left out of the hospital. I mean...
Who took them shopping?
The counselors. Counselors.
Some of the drug taking, says Nurse Pearson, came while at parties on the rehab floor.
Loud, rowdy parties. We were next to St. Thomas Project, and it would be comparable to anything you'd experience in a project, but not in a legitimate treatment center.
Drugs? And as if allegations of drug taking was not enough, there were the stories of rampant sexual mingling amongst almost everyone, staff and patients.
A lot of that went on, yes.
What about counselors and patients?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So sex was just a regular thing up there?
That was a regular thing.
No one tried to stop it?
No one.
Are we talking about sex involved, too?
Very much so.
Sex between counselors and patients?
Oh, yes.
Patients and patients?
Throughout the whole hospital, not just Reality. Throughout the whole hospital.
As well as Reality treatment?
Oh, yes.
You saw this?
I saw this. I saw this.
The two women say they also saw numerous drug addicts check into the hospital when hiding out from either the police or drug dealers.
Hiding from somebody who wanted to kill them? Or from the police?
Probably wanted to hurt them, you know, on the streets if they owed for drugs.
So they'd hide out from the police?
On the unit.
Or from someone who wanted to kill them?
Hanging out, right. Right. And made no secret of it.
And yet, the government, Medicaid, was paying for them to be there.
Right.
So they simply check in and hide out?
I'll check in. You know, I'll check in. I'll get some help here for the next 20 days or whatever.
And the taxpayers will pay for it?
That happened a lot. Very unprofessional.
And remember the addict on last night's report who told of other addicts receiving crack cocaine, money, and even sex to enter Reality treatment. These two nurses back up her story.
Horrible. I mean, I know of people being paid to bring patients in, patients being paid to come in, other people's, I'll support your family while you're in here.
Oh, God, that's the ones. Let's see. I can't remember names, but I remember a client saying to me that she was picked up several times and taken to, like, motels or, you know, having sex with them, you know, because he had either done her a favor by getting her a house. It was a lot of favors done, like getting her houses.
And all the while, say the two women, the only treatment to speak of was...
Treatment consisted of what was called a group therapy, which was just a rap session.
You come in for treatment, the taxpayers are paying their money, and you get to go shopping, you get to go and see about your food stamps, you get to see about all these different things.
And those were just some of the complaints the two women had to offer. District Attorney Harry Connick has been following the reports on this station and has now launched a full investigation.
If what has been represented on your program, if there is substance to that, then there are criminal violations against the law of the state of Louisiana, it appears to me.
Others joining the investigation as a result of these reports are the New Orleans Police Department, the Attorney General's Office, and the Internal Revenue Service. Still, no word from Representative Sherman Copeland.
on the allegations made against his Reality Treatment Center Corporation.
There are new allegations of gross negligence and fraud inside drug treatment centers in New Orleans. Tonight, Bill Elder talks to former patients and a former medical director about their experiences on the inside.
For the past 18 years, one man has been on the front lines offering encouragement and opportunity. Vernon Shorty's mission is to give the people here hope.
By talking to them about goals, directions, values, the real ability to come out of a negative situation and become positive.
For nearly 20 years now, Vernon Shorty has been depicted by the media in the city as a folk hero who lived in the Desire Housing Project and worked to rehabilitate drug addicts. With federal and state subsidies, he long ago set up methadone clinics, and according to a former associate, either owns or is in some way associated with practically all 4 of them in this city. We tried to interview Vernon Shorty for this story, but he refused. So it is difficult to determine exactly what he owns and what he doesn't. In previous reports, we did learn, however, that Vernon Shorty was a partner with Representative Sherman Copeland and others in the reality treatment centers located at New Orleans General and United Medical Centers, where fraud and outrageous behavior is allegedly taking place. A former medical director of his Desire Methadone Clinic, Dr. Rosalind Cropper, says that Vernon Shorty divides his time between reality and his methadone operations. Dr. Cropper says so much was happening at his methadone clinic that
I went to the state with the argument that it was unethical, especially...
Dr. Cropper says there was constant pressure to get her to turn her back on extremely dangerous high dosages of methadone that not only kept the addicts high, but sometimes even killed them.
So if you get a person with AIDS, with pneumonia, and you put large doses of methadone on board, then you're killing him.
Did some of them die?
Yes. I have 2 known cases.
Dr. Cropper says methadone treatment costs less than 30 cents a day, and the clinics could have afforded to give it away, but had an alternative motive in mind.
So I engaged in a fight to either decrease the amount of the methadone or give it to them free because it was a negligible cost. I went to the state and they agreed to pay, but the clinics would not accept the terms, so...
So the clinic wanted to keep the addicts that were going there on a paying basis?
I guess so.
Why would they want to do that?
It's a business.
Wait till you hear what kind of a business it turns out to be. This woman says the methadone counselors gave her orders to steal when she couldn't pay.
The staff, they would ask me, you know, about certain items that I could get through stealing.
They give you a wish list?
Yeah. Yes.
And what would they ask for? Things like what?
Shoes, comforters, all kinds of things. Bags, purses, you know, expensive stuff.
So you'd go into the store and steal it and then bring it back?
Yes.
And then they'd give you the methadone?
Yes.
What would they ask for? Things like what?
Mostly like women, they wanted underwear, slips, underclothes like that, blouse, jeans, whatever I could get, perfume. Anything that I could get that was valuable to them and they wanted, they bought it.
Did they ever give you extra doses of methadone for this?
Occasionally.
Enough to go out on the street and sell it?
Yeah, if I wanted to sell it.
You saw people have to steal.
Oh, yeah. You're either going to have to do it. Most women will prostitute themselves.
They do this?
They do it because, you know, they're under the same circumstances as using heroin. You know, no chicky, no wash you. What can I say?
So if you had to go out and steal,
well,
if you couldn't pay?
Yeah, right.
I was just taking orders. You know, taking orders of things that they wanted, that they would like to have.
Such as?
Shoes, clothes, VCRs, televisions, computers.
You brought this back to the methadone clinic, and then they'd give you the methadone?
Yes.
And unless you brought this in, you wouldn't get the methadone?
Meat and alcohol, all kinds of things, cigarettes.
So you just went out and you were a one-person crime wave.
Pack rat. I just stole it. I just went on a stealing excursion.
And they gave you the orders to do that?
Yes.
So they go out and steal?
steal, prostitute, whatever.
And the clinic knew this?
Yeah.
Mr. Shorty knew this?
Probably, yes.
As we said, Vernon Shorty still refuses to talk about his drug rehab or methadone businesses. Meanwhile, the group All Congregations Together, better known as ACT, says it is greatly concerned over the allegations that have surfaced on this station concerning reality treatment and now the methadone centers. Belita Lacey and Suzanne Paulton spoke for the biracial watchdog group.
If we have corruption within our treatment of drug addicts, then that just puts us further behind in dealing with this very serious problem.
It gives us a sense of outrage. It's why we're here today, because we're outraged. We feel overwhelmed with this problem.
Tonight, anger from two lawmakers from the New Orleans area who sponsored an income disclosure document that swears by those who sign it that neither they nor their spouses have profited more than $250 in doing business with the state. Representative David Bitter says Copeland circumvented the intent when he inserted special words that excluded himself.
I think the most significant thing is that his personal fingerprints are all over this legislative activity.
Pepe Bruno, the sponsor of a provision to add teeth to the disclosure document, says Copeland managed to insert certain words that excluded anyone who just happened to come up with Medicaid contracts with the state.
And added the income incidental to the receipt of Medicaid reimbursements. Pretty slick. Pretty slick. I don't like being had.
In a meeting of the House Governmental Affairs Committee, on which Copeland sits, he successfully introduced an amendment that allowed any lawmaker exemption from reporting income from Medicaid, arguing that physicians who are lawmakers would be unduly punished. Well, Bruno and the others bought the argument, even though there's only one physician in the House. And the only person other than him who the amendment benefited may have been Copeland himself. So when Copeland signed the disclosure document in 1992 that said that he did not make more than $250 profit from the state, he was telling the truth. Because the Medicaid provision allowed him to ignore the $12 million which his reality treatment center had received.
Well, I think after looking into the details, it's perfectly clear that Chairman Copeland has been working behind the scenes in his capacity as a legislator to, number one, do everything he can to cover his tracks regarding these outrageous Medicaid profits he's making through his business, and number two, to do everything he can to block any legislation that would cause that business trouble.
Representative Pepe Bruno says Copeland has been able to manipulate other appropriations to his advantage, such as in the case of the Lower Ninth Ward Development Corporation, which received $245,000 to clean up and to tear down crack houses.
So when we finally got into it, we found out that the National Guard had knocked down the crack houses and that this so-called beautification program had salted a substantial amount of the money away. Then the rest of it was apparently being bled out in salary and fees.
Representative Sherman Copeland still refuses to speak with this reporter, especially about the latest allegations. But tonight there seems to be a movement among some lawmakers in Baton Rouge to have him explain to them.
Throughout this station's investigation of State Representative Sherman Copeland and his partners concerning the drug rehab business here in town and how it does business with the state, almost all of the allegations that you heard came from people who at one time or the other had worked for him. Tonight, allegations from a different source. Inspectors from the State Health Department.
An inspection by the state's health department in 1992 revealed an operation that was not only not in compliance, but as you will soon hear from the supervisor, possibly out-and-out fraud.
Discharge records not available. No medical director, no director of psychiatric services. In other words, they were putting down for directors and there was nobody there by that caliber.
If that's the deficiency that was written, that's what they found at that time of the survey.
It said nursing staff did not get orientation training. In other words, the nurses were disoriented, didn't know their way around the building.
Time and time again, the inspection team revealed that personnel were not qualified. In fact, the report judged the staff members unfit to even make an evaluation of inpatients. And records, oftentimes, they were even non-existent.
You did find these things.
Our surveys did find that when they went out on their survey, and they cited it as such.
Should this place be closed down?
There are still investigations going on.
But there seems to be out and out fraud. If you put in that you're supposed to have these people on the staff, and then your office finds that they don't, does not that constitute fraud?
It could be.
I'm sorry?
It could be.
The inspection we just told you about deals with but one aspect of Representative Sherman Copeland's drug rehab empire. We have other state inspections we want to tell you about. They deal with his nursing homes. What does the report call them? Abominable. We'll tell you about that in our next report. For Eyewitness News Night Watch, this is Bill Elder.
I'm fixing to talk very briefly about some things that you need to know about because these things will benefit you. Drugs. I'm fixing to talk about education. And I'm fixing to talk about careers, meaning jobs, meaning how you eat. You will earn what you learn. And education allows you to do whatever you want to do. This is what makes me feel so good about my education. It allowed me to do exactly what I wanted to do. This thing feeds me. So can you imagine why I like it so much? Do you know that I get paid to do what I like to do? You can take that education and you can make it happen. You can believe in yourself and do it. All students have goals and aspirations. Mine was to be a TV cameraman. And to prepare myself, I had to obtain a fundamentally sound education. And I'm glad I did. Because education can mean the difference between this or this. Give your dreams a chance. Stay in school.
Ron Hoof's Real Deal Youth Program promotes education through straight talk kids understand.
You don't get past those drugs, and you don't get an education, you kiss a career goodbye. Education allows you to do whatever you want to do. I love this thing. I enjoy doing it, and they pay me to do it. This is why my program is called The Real Deal, because it's none other than just that. It's the real deal, and you need to hear it. This is why you don't do drugs, because that stuff will kill you dead. I want you to know that anybody who tells you that you can do drugs, or you can sell drugs, or you can get ahead dealing with any kind of drugs, these people are not your friends. That stuff will kill you. Let me see the hands of everybody in here who likes to eat. Hold that thought. So if you like to eat, you got to work. Why not do something you enjoy doing? You got to get up every morning and go anyway. The only people who will tell you what you cannot do are the people who are not doing it themselves. And that's the real deal.
To find out more about The Real Deal, call KATV Community Relations.
Well, I get a number of points across. What it is, it's a real-life effect. The real deal is real life. And I don't try to sugarcoat anything. I just give the kids exactly what they need to know. Some of them hear it at home. Some of them don't hear it at home. Mm-hmm. But these are things that we all need to know. Now, kids are smarter than we give them credit for. They know more now than we knew because they have access to more things.
You're absolutely
and
right.
they can appreciate you just being straight up with them. And you let them know, well, I didn't make the rules, but yet I have to live by them too.
My question is, how did you come up with the idea?
Well, back in '88, I was asked to go to a school, to a career day, and address some kids, and there were some executives there, and they'll talk about how many dividends their company had or how many stocks that they had, and I didn't see the kids' interest there. I didn't feel that that was what they really needed to know. What they needed to know was how you get there, because you don't go to bed on a Sunday night and wake up Monday morning a top executive. It's a long, hard road to get there, and they have to know. Hey, good things don't come easy. They never have, and they never will.
So you emphasize education, stay in school, get that education.
Well, I emphasize a number of things, but basically, if you don't stay away from drugs and you don't get an education, Vic, you can basically kiss a career goodbye because it will not happen.
That's the real deal.
It will not happen, and that's the real deal. Now, I tell them the reason why you do drugs. See, sometimes you have to tell kids, you have to give them a reason. You can't just tell them something.
Right.
They're too smart for that. They need to know why and let them know, hey, it's your responsibility because Mom and Dad won't be with you on the playground when somebody approaches you and offers you drugs.
Yeah.
And people who try to sell you drugs, they're more interested in your money than they are your life. Now, the reason why you don't do drugs is that stuff will kill you dead. Now, Vic, I might be a little bit old-fashioned, but personally, I believe that most people want to live longer than 18 to 22 years old.
I think you're
They
right.
want to live a happy and a productive life, which is impossible when you do drugs. That stuff will kill you.
I tell you what, Ronnie is certainly a motivational speaker, and this program has grown so well, so good since 1988, that as we were talking about, you see that he has a T-shirt now, and also check, he's got a packet that he's put together with the Real Deal program on it here, and this kind of gives an overview of what your program is all about. Inside are some letters of recommendation, including one from Governor Tucker, right there. Governor of Arkansas. How many people do you suppose you've talked to over the years now?
Oh,
at least I know you've done at least 100 programs or more.
It's unreal.
So it's up in the thousands.
It's a program that's catching on because it's back to the basics. You know, kids are sometimes, let me say that Arkansas has some of the brightest kids, and they need to know that they have more opportunity now than ever before.
Yes.
But good things don't come easy, and if you want something, it's all right to dream, but at some point in time, you have to wake up and go get that dream, or you just get a crook in your neck from dreaming too long. And education, Dwayne, education is that's how you go and get your dream, because an education allows you to do what you want to do.
Now, Ron, suppose we have a group watching, a group of, you know, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, kids at school, and they want to have you come and talk and do your little motivational speech. Call you here?
You betcha.
Call you at Channel 7.
You betcha. Cindy Watkins has been tremendous. She has helped me out so much, you know, as far as helping me get things organized and get things...
You're appearing this weekend, aren't you?
Oh, I appear tonight at Johns Elementary in Eudora, Arkansas.
In Eudora. So you go anywhere?
I've been all over the state, Dwayne. I've been asked to go out of the state. But you know, when you start trying to do a program and you try to do something that's trying to help your community, you start at home first, and that's what I'm telling these kids. When you want to do something, you look in the mirror first. That's where it all starts. That's where it all happens for you.
Ronnie, you know this business. Time's up.
Okay.
Thanks for being. We've enjoyed it. Enjoyed the dip, too. Let's have some more of this dip.
We're going back to England when we come back.